It's Tuesday. It's 9:05 Eastern. It's time for World Class Bullshitters to go live here on a Tuesday night with the High Council. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight are my co-hosts. First up, let's do this in reverse order. From the Great White North, you know him, you love him. Say hello to the Script Doctor.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here on the High Council. Lots of fun stuff to talk about with the show topics. And happy to have all you wonderful listeners out there popping in. Thank you so much for this beautiful evening. I'm very tired, but I'm also very energized to be here tonight with you all.
I told you guys off air I've had a pretty big couple of days, but I'm excited to do this show. But, folks, I'm not going to be telling you about that stuff now. Up next, all the way from the Ripverse, another man you know, you love, and he's been here for quite a while, and I'm very grateful for that. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What's going on, Jeff? What's going on, Script? What is going on? High Council Chat. Great to be back here on another Tuesday night. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you all. Butts in the seats every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, we've got quite the show lined up for you guys. We've got some fun topics, one of which I may have very distinct, specific thoughts on. So that'll be fun to get into. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for being here, guys.
Well, I'm glad that you guys like tonight's topics, as do I, because, folks, we talk about shifts in entertainment, and it's funny. You can say that WCBS is usually a finger on the pulse of a big change coming. We talk about stuff as it's happening, as it's developing, and today's story has just kind of broke. Well, one of today's many stories. There's a big shift in the entertainment world. Now, not Hollywood or video games, but another form of entertainment that's very near and dear to my heart, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But, of course, as you saw in the description, we're going to be talking about The Flash is in the news, and, I wanted to hear Andrew's take on it since The Flash is his favorite superhero. He's quite an inspirational one, and we all enjoy him in different mediums. But I did not enjoy that movie, and we're not going to be railing on that movie tonight. We're going to be talking about some new news. Plus, we have Script with a little bit of insight, which is always fun. And tonight's the last episode of The Skeleton Crew. Am I going to review it? No, but I will tell you this. There's a reason why I stopped watching, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. But if you're watching live, and I've tried to alter this, if you're watching on a platform where it says Aaron Sparrow, Aaron and I, we had a time issue where Aaron thought we were going live at 9 p.m. Pacific, not 9 p.m. Eastern. So, folks, Aaron is on an airplane right now. He's going to join us next week. So, folks, all that fun stuff with Aaron Sparrow will be here. And, folks, we have new guests all the time. If you have recommendations for guests, shoot us an email, info@worldclassbullshitters.com. We'll get back with you, and we'll try to make all of those requests happen. Now, look, if you request a name like, I don't know, Lady Gaga or Bradley Cooper, I can't promise those ones, but we're going to try for you guys because this is, the epitome of pop culture after all. But, folks, before we start tonight's show, we have to check in with the audience like we always do. Of course, listen to our mod and longtime listener, Dr. Coffinails. Hit that like button to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. Folks, just because we passed 200,000 subscribers doesn't mean we're in the clear yet. I'm not resting until we hit 10 million. Then I'll go on this long vacation, and I might not come back. And you're thinking, why would we help you get to 10 million and not come back? Folks, it's about the journey, not the destination. And the journey, well, we got a lot of way to go, and a lot of shows, and a lot of content to make for you guys, including some special things very, very soon. But I'm not going to tell you about those anymore tonight. We have to check in with our listener, Sejorjan. Sejorjan, thank you very much for your generous, very generous super chat. Why did the people who made the Robbie Williams monkey biopic think it would be a success in the U.S. when all he's known for is a music video from 1999 called Millennium, an homage to James Bond? Oh, you mean that song that kind of uses You Only Live Twice in its chorus?
I think so.
I have heard, okay, Robbie Williams is a meme guy to me. When I hear the name Robbie Williams, I think of the very dark meme of when Robin Williams passed away, and every year I see R.I.P. Robin Williams with a picture of Robbie Williams. So I don't really know that guy outside of that meme. But I didn't even know the film that we're discussing was being made until this past weekend, and it sounded mildly interesting, and then I forgot about it, and then I opened up my phone, and I learned that the film made $1 million worldwide, $1 million on a huge budget, and it is a big old flop. Script, you follow the industry more than I do. Did you hear about this movie?
Yes, I've actually heard only great things about this movie, so it's a flop based on the fact that the advertising is not the best. And that nobody's seeing it. Like just there's other things there that that's sucking up all the air, which is weird because I know people that have seen it more than 4 times already. Like they
That's a lot.
really like this movie. They say it's very, very good. And I'm just waiting to see if I got some time available to go check it out myself, because I'm only familiar with Robbie Williams in the sense that I think he did the opening theme song for Johnny English or something of that nature. Which I'm,
Johnny English. Well, that is
yeah,
a name I have not heard in a long time.
yeah, Rowan Atkinson comedy or attempted comedy,
Mhm.
and so yeah, like it's something that piques me interest. Now, the only reason the budget was so high, I think, has to do with the fact they hired Weta to replace the actor with a monkey. Whatever reasons, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding out when I get to see the film. But yeah, it's one of the cases where it's a really good movie that just for some reason is not moving with the general audience, but everyone who has seen it has given it glowing reviews. So like that's just the case right now, and it's a little unfortunate of that nature. But this movie might, in the secondary market, might actually become like the cult hit that they were hoping to get in theaters.
It looks mildly interesting, and I have a Regal pass, so if I had the time, I might check it out. But like you say, Shazorjan, I don't know this guy. I have no connection to him. And we're in the middle, well, not even the middle, we're just on the road of this biopic renaissance. I guess it started with what? Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman a couple years ago. And now we got Elvis and Bob Dylan and Robbie Williams. And it's a genre that keeps picking up. I don't think that this flop of this film is going to alter the genre biopic of the musical biopic, excuse me. But I don't think it's going to help it. I think the Michael Jackson one's going to be the last big one, because what other great musician of the modern era either hasn't had a film made about them or is dead where you could make a film about them?
Paul McCartney, maybe.
Oh, they are casting a Beatles movie, so
Yeah, but that's different from there's a biopic for the individual, and then there's the, based on a true story of the band.
Right.
Because they've already done the Queen one, or the Freddie Mercury one. So yeah, I mean they're running out. They're running. Well, I mean it's also showing you like how poorly the music industry has evolved since.
Yeah, because there haven't been nearly as many standout like mega artists of value.
Yeah, like
since
what's
those
next?
guys.
Kurt Cobain. What's next? Kurt Cobain and Green Day. Like,
well, probably a Taylor Swift movie, like where she plays herself, maybe as a monkey, and we learn her life story through CGI. I can't wait.
Daddy,
to
buy me a record label and sign me. Okay, sweetheart. That's the movie.
I strongly dislike Taylor Swift and everything she represents, but folks, I'm not going to use this platform to vent about a rich white lady. I'm going to talk about the stuff you care
Amy
about.
Winehouse. Has there been an Amy Winehouse thing? Because I know she was a really good singer. Tony Bennett would say praises to her for a long time before he passed
she had
away.
a great crooner voice.
That came out last year, Script.
Okay, so that
really?
It's called Back to Black.
Huh.
Oh,
How about that? I didn't even know.
And it stars such names as Jack O'Connell and Marissa Abella. Yeah, I don't know any of those people either. Like, I'm looking at the entire cast list to see if I can find one recognizable name. And I'm going, no. Not a single person in this movie is recognizable to me.
well, that really went under the radar for me last year, which is unfortunate.
Are you a fan of hers?
Not the biggest fan, but I'm always fascinated about those types of stories because she died tragically young, and you kind of want to see what the deal was, or at least what the interpretation of the deal was. So
I just remember her being popular when I was a freshman in college. I didn't like the song Rehab, and then she passed away.
Me neither.
And like Amy Winehouse was like a one-hit wonder to me. I knew one song, then everyone talked about how great she was, and she died. And you know how the cult of death is around musicians. Oh man, so-and-so was brilliant. It's not like she's Jimi Hendrix good or anything like that, but ooh, there we go. I'll watch a Jimi Hendrix movie. Sign me up for that one. That dude is the best. So Xavier to God. Jeff, did you ever play the Batman Begins game? Maybe like 20 years ago when it was new. I might have played it at like a kiosk in a store, but I've never owned a copy.
that's the PS2 game, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I remember playing that. there's a whole level where you're Bruce Wayne in a suit, and you got to go find batarangs by breaking like windows or picture frames or something.
Is there a level where you get to pick up a burning piece of wood off of Alfred? Because that'd be a pretty cool role reversal. But no.
All I know is that the game mechanics were pretty poor, and you once Arkham Asylum came out, everybody was like, "Oh, why couldn't this been a Batman Begins game?"
Dude, you know there's a Dark Knight game that was almost done.
I heard,
and
yeah.
they canceled it. Yeah, there's footage of it. It was like really close. That's the game. I know we're never going to have the ability to, but if some interesting, talented coder out there could finish the Dark Knight video game and release that, that'd be wonderful. I'd love to play it because it's a good movie, and I bet the game was going to be pretty solid. Not every movie-based video game is garbage. Xavier to God, maybe you picked one that I haven't played or remember very well, but I can probably come up with a dozen or so fun ones. So, and yes, I'll probably count James Bond 2 or 3 times because all the Pierce Brosnan ones had movies, and 2 of the 3 are pretty good. One's great. Xavier to God, thank you. Shrubbles08 has the word of the day. Ooh, that's a delicious word. The word of the day is burrito. Another burrito more. How Stella got her burrito back. The Great White Burrito. That's my favorite one. And Hot Tub Burrito Machine, Burrito Trip, and dude, where's my burrito?
Wet hot American burrito.
Burrito-opolis.
Okay. Yeah. Gosh. The Burrito Reloaded.
Way of the Burrito.
Burrito Unchained.
Enter the Burrito.
The good, the bad, the burrito.
Once upon a time in a burrito.
Burrito Busters.
Silent Night, Deadly Burrito.
Freddy versus Burrito.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Burritos.
Back to the burrito.
And finally, National Lampoon's Burrito Vacation.
All right,
delicious.
there's the winner.
I don't know if it's the winner or not, but now I want a burrito. So, Shrubbles08, I guess I will take your super chat and I'll buy myself a burrito tomorrow. I will go out to Chipotle because I do like Chipotle. But folks, send in your burrito titles. This is a delicious one. Shrubbles08, see if you can come up with some tasty titles for January. That could be this month's theme. And then maybe next month's theme would be, I don't know, something darker. That's a Black History Month joke. Folks, join us each week in February where Dion and I talk about how silly it is at times. Or not. Thank you, though, Shrubbles08. Gunner, what is up? Member for 5 months. Thank you, Gunner, for being a member for 5 months. But you've been around a lot longer. I believe your name was a little longer, your screen name, and you've been around for years, so thank you. My sister was a big fan of Take That, and I like some of his songs. I'm going to check it out. And that's in regards to the Robbie Williams film. If it's a good story, I'm there. I've watched a lot of movies about music. Like that one about the Beatles yesterday, where if the Beatles didn't exist and that guy wrote those songs.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Even, this isn't a great movie, but it wasn't terrible. Eurovision, the one with Will Ferrell, where he wants to make a song. I thought that was okay.
Oh, yeah, that's the where he's like they're Swedish or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Waja or something like that. I can't remember.
All I know is it was the last Will Ferrell movie I ever watched. After that, I just kind of... Has he made anything since then?
Not... Well, kind of, but not really. Nothing that's actually hit. I think he's been kind of like pushed in actors' jail or sidelined since his horrible Sherlock Holmes remake with John C. Reilly. Like, that's kind of the movie that ended it, because him and Adam McKay kind of split up as a creative duo just before that
Adam
movie.
McKay's off making like real films, right? Like The Big Short.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Adam McKay, he has a knack for comedy, but he's by default like he's an auteur. So when they fell apart, he took the opportunity to go and make his own stuff, because the two of them had their production company called Gary Sanchez, and I was in contact with some of their people over there. And then all of a sudden, after I sent off a fun little "Hey, how you doing?" email, I get a response back. It's like, "Yeah, the company split up and it's completely shuttered." So sorry. We don't know where we're going to be working later.
I always loved their production company because it was the breakfast one, right? And the guy would shoot the gun and would become a star or something like that. That was a pretty cool production logo. I still stand by Strip Brothers for the win. Gunner, do me a favor. If you watch the movie, let me know how it is. Script, when you watch it, let me know how it is. And if I watch it before anybody else, I will let you guys know how it is. But I won't make a video about it. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much for your generous super chat as well. All right, Script, I left a comment on your first show of 2025 about this. What's with the catch reader by the end of the first page of scripts now, and what are some great movies that wouldn't get made because of it?
That's a great question, and I saw your comment on my show, so thank you so much, TLG Screwjob, for that. So the whole idea of catching the reader by the end of the first page is it's just a hurdle to try and get your script into the right hands of people on the studio side of things. On the independent side of things, you don't have to really worry too much about this because you're most likely self-financing or gathering a low budget retainer to get started on your own. Are there some great movies that wouldn't get made because of it? Godfather, maybe. That takes a couple of minutes. That doesn't have a page one grab you yet. Not in the traditional sense, although I do love The Godfather, but that's different. It's really hard to nail it because a lot of the big hit great movies that we have kind of do that, at least within the first 5 minutes. They hook you. Like James Bond is a great example of how they do it. Like that opening sequence before they get to the gun barrel part, that's the whole gimmick there. And it's even better when that opening sequence really dovetails into the rest of the movie, which it more often than not does. I think with the more Daniel Craig ones, not so much.
Don't talk about Jeff's favorite James Bond like that.
What? That he exists? I can't help that. Script can't help that. There's nothing wrong with that. But guess what, Andrew? He's no longer James Bond, and I wake up.
Thank God.
Yeah, I wake up each morning so grateful.
I would say probably a few Oliver Stone films probably do that. Like, Platoon. Oh no, wait, no. Platoon is actually one of the ones that does it really well. It's Ridley Scott is a little slow with some of his stuff. Alien, especially. The Alien does not hook you in the first 5 minutes normally because everything is still just kind of building up to it. It's way more predicated on the things if it was written on a script that nobody would care about, like a big spaceship that's coming into view, that's a refinery of sorts, and then these crew is waking up. No, I'm not interested. Kind of bored. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky in that regard. The movies that you like the most usually kind of fit within that rule, with probably a few exceptions of some biopics. One of the reasons why if you want to take a look at something pretty recently, like the movie Sonic the Hedgehog, like the first one, one of the reasons why it started out with that action piece is because the normal beginning of that story is boring. Nobody cares. It takes you too long to get into it, which is why they do that pause and then, but this is how we got here moment, which is a big, cheap gimmick in order to basically telegraph to your reader that you do not know how to write the actual beginning of your story to make it interesting. So you have to pull from the most interesting part and put it into the front and then repeat it again later once we get to that point. So we're playing catch up at that moment. Yeah, that's the best I can give you at that point right now, TLJ Screwjob. But thank you so much for that interaction. I always appreciate it.
Folks, we appreciate whenever you guys check out the guests or the co-hosts on this channel's other content, because Script puts out great stuff. Andrew's got his new show. What is it? Not something foil variant. Foil variant. I knew the name and I talked myself out of it. Anyway, folks, thank you for checking everybody's workout. Overkill 161 as a title. 12 years of burrito. That sounds.
12 years of burrito. Okay, so it probably came from McDonald's. And it's pumped with so much like preservative nonsense that it could survive a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, at the end of the Armageddon, there will be Twinkies, cockroaches, and McDonald's chicken nuggets.
Yep, true story.
Maybe McDonald's will allow me to, or they'll commission me to do a comic where the world has been destroyed and the only food source is a McDonald's somewhere in Ohio, and people go to Ohio to find the remnants of the old McDonald's food to survive forever, because according to legend, a Big Mac lasts forever. Especially
that reminds me of a very short-lived and kind of controversial sitcom called Teen Angel, where the reason the guy's a teen angel is because on a dare he ate what looks like a McDonald's hamburger that may have been sitting in his bedroom for a few months, but looked perfectly normal. And he dies and becomes the guardian angel of his best friend. And this is a real sitcom that aired a few episodes for it. And I remember vividly because the wrapper was the classic McDonald's yellow at the time, which it was at the time for it. And it's I can't believe it existed as a show, but it did. I think it was ABC, maybe.
Yeah, it ran for 17 episodes from September 26, 97 to February 13th, 1998. And it was created by Simpsons alumni Al Jean.
Yep.
So, Al Jean. So. And I don't know any of the actor. Well, Maureen McCormick. So Marsha Brady, the original Marsha Brady, plays the mom. And Conchita Farrell, the lady from 2.5 Men's in It, too, the housekeeper.
Yep.
This should be on Disney Plus. I'm sure more people would watch this than the Skeleton Crew.
That's
probably
a super low bar from what I hear,
buddy. Let's talk about that since the show's ending tonight.
Well, we got a button too, right?
Oh, yeah. Here's one we haven't pressed in a while.
Grace!
I love number.
Man, that movie is so wonderful. I love that movie so much.
I do too. And then they play Dave Balp Balp. It's the greatest song ever. Damn it. No, It's Always Sunny fans. Fuck. Anyway, Ferris Bueller's great. I love it. I hate the fan theory that Cameron is really Ferris Bueller and the Ferris Bueller is just like a mental projection of him. I think that's so dumb. Like,
who the hell came up with that?
People
Someone
on
who
the
watched
internet.
Fight Club.
Sometimes people are far too obsessed with finding some sort of like deeper meaning in what's just supposed to be a fun movie.
Well, one of the aspects of it is due to the fact that Ferris Bueller doesn't have a character arc, but Cameron does.
Well,
he goes from a guy that doesn't want to get pulled out of bed. Ferris Bueller, the quote unquote mentor of the dynamic, drags him out, gets him to do stuff, gets him to let loose, gets him to have fun and experiment. Then after he wrecks his dad's car, he's like, I'm not even going to hide this anymore. I'm just going to face up and challenge him. Like, that's a character arc that usually your protagonist has that.
Mm-hmm.
But this interesting aspect is
you do have static characters and stories, though.
You can, but usually you don't have your supporting characters go through a bigger arc than your title character. And that's the interesting aspect of it, is that what does Ferris Bueller ends up in the same position at the end of the movie as he was in the beginning part, but everyone else around him changes. And that's where you're like, that's where you get into those types of theories, where you're like, oh, okay. Because even like Ferris Bueller's sister, she goes through an arc and then ends up dating Charlie Sheen's character by the end after she kicks the principal in the face like 3 times.
Yeah.
The principal goes through an arc where he kind of has to give up on trying to nail a kid.
Phrasing
properly. Mia Sarah's character kind of like opens up a little too. But yeah, Cameron is the guy that has the most significant of the arcs.
A lot of John Hughes characters have arcs. Even Gary and Wyatt, they go from dweeby losers to kings of the high school by growing a pair of balls. So I guess Ferris Bueller is kind of, he's just substance over style. Like,
Ferris Bueller's like Tom Bombadil, if you want to think about it a little bit. He's there. He's kind of guiding people in. He's
talking about trees for 85 pages. It's great.
Sure, yeah.
Which
Foliage.
Lord of the Rings character is he? Is he just not in the movies?
He's not in the movies. No, he was one of the many things that was cut because he was not necessary to the movie's runtime.
Well, then I'll never read the book he's a part of. Because, sorry, folks, Tolkien's just not my cup of tea. But I'm reading some other books right now.
Well, if you
thank
like
you,
the
Overkill
dictionary,
Council.
he wrote that, so you're...
I do. I read the dictionary every morning. The first thing I do is I get up, I make a coffee, and I sit there and just read. All right, this word of the day. No, I don't. What if I actually did? I'd be the most boring man in America. I'd be like that guy from Mrs. Doubtfire who hosts the dinosaur show. I'd put people to sleep. Let's read 2 more of these, and then we're going to get into the show proper, folks. Thank you for everybody, or to everybody who supports the channel. Hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. And folks, we're going to talk about a big shift in entertainment right now after these messages. In regards to the end of the first page, you also mentioned that the writer used to have more pages to get things done. Why has that changed? An attention span thing? Asked TLJ Screwjob.
Oh, yeah, you nailed it, pretty much. With each generation of story analysts that come in, they're given larger stacks, well, digital stacks these days, of scripts to read. And they also have carte blanche, where they don't necessarily have to provide coverage for all of them, just the ones that they feel they should, push up to the front desk. So if you can't convince them or entertain them by the end of that first page, they toss the script away and move on to the next one because they have so many to get through. It was... I remember when I was starting out doing that, especially over at Warner Brothers, where if I found a good script, I'd have to write the coverage for it. It'd have to be a 1-pager. I'd have to submit that with the script to my boss, who would then screen it themselves before they sent it to the executive. And then on the same time, I'd be getting scripts of television shows that were going to production in a few weeks, and I'd have to proof those and then write coverage for that so that the executive that makes decisions for the showrunner or authorizes choices for the showrunner knows what the heck the show they're authorizing those choices are is actually about and what's going on in that episode. And I ended up reading like a bunch of terrible Smallville scripts for that time. It was it was not fun because I'm like, how did Kelly Saunders? You suck. You're better now, but you sucked back then.
TLJ Screwjob, I would just like to add some of my personal favorite movies require a long lead-in. Like, for example, Hot Fuzz, a movie I don't talk about very much, but Hot Fuzz is a breadcrumb movie. We're going to drop here, 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 and then the ending is such a big payoff. I wish they made more movies like that because I'm happy. I know I'm in the rare minority here, but I'm very happy to sit there for, an hour and a half. And then we get this 30-minute payoff that's glorious, and it's joke after joke and callback and reference and Aaron A. Aronson. Like, I miss movie making like that. I hate...
That's brilliant, but that those first 2 minutes of Hot Fuzz is that montage profiling Officer Angel, and that hooks you, man. Especially when you see he gets the knife through the hand, and you're just like, "How's the knife? How's the hand? A little stiff."
That movie, I saw we got a bootleg download back in high school. Then I saw it in theaters, and I bought it on disc. Hell, I saw the re-release. I'll never skip out on Hot Fuzz. But I guess some things. I like to act like I have the world's longest attention span, but then some movies like Avengers Infinity War that just start out with action in the first 20 minutes. I think the first 40 minutes are nonstop action. I also like that too. So, TLJ Screwjob, I guess it's a beat-by-beat basis.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think I'm willing to give any kind of pacing a shot as long as what's happening is serving my interests at that moment. Like if it's something where I'm going into something with certain expectations and it is not meeting those in such a way that it's not like it's this isn't what I expected. It's more of like, this is not what I'm here for type of a deal. Then I'm cool with slow burns. I'm cool with like throwing you right into the heat of it. I like, though it is, to Script's point earlier, it's something that can be absolutely overused, abused, and used just improperly in general. When you toss somebody into a moment further into the story to kick things off, and then you circle back, I like that when it's done well. I've read books where that's been done very, very effectively, and I enjoyed the hell out of them. I've also watched movies and read books where it's like, oh, well, I see why we did this because the rest of this bit right here, which is where we actually start, is not very interesting.
Yeah. Because that's the trick, right? If you go into those that climax moment and then you roll back, if what you roll back to is just as engaging, then you know it's being done as a creative choice for the story for whatever purpose.
Rather than a crutch.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Bingo.
Well said.
Rare script and D'Andrew agreement moment.
We agree.
What the hell is this? 2025?
It must be. It's a new year, new us. We'll fight
John
later.
Thomas has a question. What are script thoughts on the Broccoli Amazon feud? Personally, I hope it never resolves. Broccoli liked Craig. Her taste is sus.
Well, I mean, Amazon bought that part of the MGM catalog, right? Because MGM had part of it from United Artists, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So there's
because Harry Saltzman tried to buy Technicolor in the 1970s and use his James Bond shares as collateral, and then the deal fell through, and then he had to sell his shares of James Bond and pretty much lived the rest of his life in ignominy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Amazon's not in a. Amazon has some really terrible people over there when it comes to franchise supervision. Barbara Broccoli, I don't know what the heck happened to her between Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. Like something snapped there. So yeah, she's not really handling it well herself. I think the impasse is beneficial right now with regards to the reputation of the franchise, because there's nothing much that they can do at this point until they come to an agreement. However, it's also comes with a big caveat, which is that both the Broccoli family and Amazon are losing money every time they're not trying to make a James Bond product. So, because again, that's the investment, right? Like, there's a reason Jeff is making a follow-up to Stealing Solo. I mean, he's got an IP that has generated him income. He's gonna make it run its course, and then from there, he'll determine what he wants to do next, whether he wants to continue it or spin it off in something else, like making Mark Hamill again. I don't know. Just
Well, no, there's 2 more books, folks. The next one will be ready for tax season this year, but. Yeah, I believe me. I'm glad that you use the example that I have an IP. I'm excited to do stuff with it. But to bounce off of what you're saying, as a big diehard 007 fan, I would rather them just lose money on not making it, because I have genuinely had such a distaste over the last 20 years for James Bond, because it's been trying to. When James Bond is trying to follow a trend, James Bond is weak. When James Bond is setting the trend, that is when James Bond is dominant. And really, the only 2 times James Bond really ever set the trend was with Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan, because Casino Royale follows Batman Begins. Yeah. Skyfall's The Dark Knight. Spectre is kind of its own thing, and No Time to Die is absolute trash. So I think Barbara Broccoli, while she might want to call Amazon idiots and script, you're going to know people at Amazon better than me, I don't think her and Michael G. Wilson, her stepbrother, who inherited the franchise, I know they worked on it. I get it. They were executive producers, associate producers, this, that, and the other. But they're both Nepo babies. Like, the dude had to work harder because he's adopted into the family. But, like, she was born into this. She inherited it. I don't think she was ever that qualified, because her dad is the one who cast Pierce Brosnan, and that franchise was so much stronger in the 90s. They're like, we got to bring back Bond. We got to do these things. And then they just chased the Bourne identity after that. Like, I don't want to see James Bond and shaky cam and all this other derivative crap. Those movies have aged so poorly. Like, you could go turn on Dr. No. You talk about old movies that are long and boring, and then you can talk about old movies that really have great pace. Dr. No is tight, man. You talk about a movie where the opening is hot. First 3 minutes, there's an assassination. Oh no, so-and-so's down. We got to find our man, James Bond. Honestly, he probably says James Bond within the first 7 to 8 minutes of that movie when he lights up that cigarette. That movie just goes. There is no downtime. There is no fat on that. Nowadays, we got to watch James Bond, I don't have any body armor, you stripped it of me. And he cries in a fucking shower. And he goes to the gravesite of a 23-year-old girl that he slept with a couple times. He can't get over that shit. Like, you have pussified the greatest fictional spy ever. You made him weak. And I don't respect him anymore. When he blew up or died or whatever, I was okay with it. It's done. If you're going to bring back the character, he's got to be hard-hitting, hard-edged, mean. Like, I don't want to see James Bond crying over some person.
Yeah, he's got to be cold.
Bond getting angry. Yeah, he's an assassin.
Make him
He's
cold.
not a hero.
Make him a badass, dude. Make him all about the ladies again. Like, make it not like. Look, I love Casino Royale as a movie. I enjoyed things about Skyfall on the second time because I fell asleep in the theater the first time I saw it. Quantum of Solace is ass and a half.
It is.
But he still wasn't James Bond. There was nothing James Bond about him in those movies, really, comparative to any iteration that we've seen prior. There wasn't the same through line. Like there's a general through line for the character and how he's presented and how he acts, things that he does throughout basically the entirety of his history. And then you get to the Craig films, and despite the fact of what I just said, and I like Casino Royale quite a lot, all of a sudden that through line just kind of ends. And he's no longer the character. You're writing somebody else. Just call it something else at that point. Yeah. That's fine. We have plenty of great spy films out there. I enjoy the James Bond films, but my favorite ones are Mission Impossible.
It's a better franchise by today's standards. And I hate to say that because...
By today's, yeah. Well, it's because Mission Impossible started doing this, and James Bond, like, Casino Royale was a good movie, but then it just kind of was like,
Mission Impossible also knew how to reinvent itself when it needed to be reinvented. Like, I understand that it's all one continuity, but it really feels like 4 is the start of something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it just kept going, and I'm still involved. I think because Bond is a masculine character that they're always trying to strip away the core elements of him because he might be offensive by today's standards, you lose it. And I'm not saying you got to watch him smack women or smoke cigarettes and all this other shit that people find a problem, but you can also make him be hard-edged and, I don't want to say impervious, but James Bond's never been super realistic. I mean, he predates the one-man army trope of a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone. I mean, the dude can run up with a machine gun that requires, great aim. He's taking an MP5 on a Walther P99, he's shooting it up at the air, and guys are just falling left and right. Like, they're not realistic movies. They're just meant to be like a fantasy. And exactly. I think trying to chase the high art, look, unless you're going to get Christopher Nolan, stop trying to make a Christopher Nolan movie out of a James Bond film. We get it. He likes Bond. You won't pay his fucking budget. Like, I get it. You won't come together. So stop. Don't carry.
You can get your James Bond movie from him if you want to pay a bunch of money out the ass for really poor audio mixing.
You know what you do, though, is if you hired him to do a James Bond, you'd probably break a shitload of records.
Oh, sure.
You'd probably have a pretty solid James Bond movie. I'm not going to lie and say it would be terrible. I just think, either hire the real guy or stop copying him, because you've been copying him for a decade, 20 years, excuse me. I'm sorry. I love my James Bond, and anytime it pops up in the news, I just want to, punch the air. Stop fucking up James Bond. I mean, I got an Aston Martin right here next to me. I care about these things. That was used as a paperweight, by the way. Oh, sorry about that script. I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way. I just,
No, it's all right, man.
I just was like, one more, and we'll finally talk about the message, the chat tonight. One more chat message, and we'll talk about the topics tonight. Thank you, folks. Enrique Vasquez says, "Hail the High Council. I just saw Get Shorty for the first time and liked it. Script, how realistic is it apart from the loan shark in the producer part? Number 57, please."
Well, the thing is that there's no real flat standard in Hollywood when it comes to production. What I'll say this is, if you ever had a glass of soda at a restaurant and it had a straw and you blew in it and it had bubbles upon bubbles upon bubbles, that is Hollywood essentially. And each bubble is a different method and different means of how you get financing or get something done. So Get Shorty is a fantastic film. Barry Sonnenfeld did an amazing job on that. And I think it's based off of a book, if I'm not mistaken. I just can't remember who the original author was. I know it was like probably Leonard's something or something Leonard. Either way, definitely check it out. It's that and The Player are probably two good Hollywood-esque movies about the movie making process, and it's really only a sliver of what the industry is actually like, because everybody has very, very different experiences.
How do you feel about the sequel? Be Cool.
I don't even remember Be Cool.
It's got The Rock and Vince Vaughn and
No, yeah.
it's got one great moment when Vince Vaughn's hair catches fire and he like dances across the stage. And other than that, it's kind of forgettable.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I can't remember much of it. So yeah. So that, I mean, Get Shorty I remember a little bit more because Gene Hackman plays like the funniest guy there, and he does it so straight. So yeah.
Dude, speaking of Gene Hackman, and I was talking about old movies with a great pace. I watched the theatrical cut of Superman the other night because it was on streaming, and I didn't even plan on watching it. I just popped it on because I wanted to watch one or two scenes. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the credits first, and then I just sat there and I kept watching the movie. First off, it's great. I've always said it's a great movie, but I have like new respect for it. And Gene Hackman, man, he was cracking me up when he talks about 200, my IQ and your weight. I was laying in bed laughing my ass off at how fucking brutal he is to Otis. And I hope James Gunn in a few months can capture something that really resonates the way that first movie did. And by the way, script, I never realized how wet Lois Lane was for Superman that entire movie. I'm like, damn, when you watch it as an adult, she's just throwing it. Do you like pink? This, that? I'm like, all right, Lois.
Even when she tries to be shy after he says your underwear is pink and she like walks right back to the planter, it's like, oh, okay, so she's willing to throw it, but she doesn't want to play too easy. She's also a little bit timid. One of the things that's fantastic about that film, and something that you don't get or haven't gotten with the Superman movie in the 21st century, is Superman the motion picture, or sorry, Superman the movie, is very quotable. There's a lot of great lines in that movie.
Otisburg?
Otisburg, Miss Taskmaster, she's got a place. Ground Zero, which would be right here.
In Hackensack, New Jersey?
Hackensack, New Jersey.
Lives in Hackensack, New Jersey. She lived in Hackensack, New
Then
Jersey.
you also got Glenn Ford's thing. Like, I don't know why you hear some, but I do know one thing. It's not to throw touchdowns. Like, that's a great line about what it means to do with your life. Like, it's sometimes you can have more meanings in sports. It's not to say the sports aren't great. It's just sometimes you have to do more than that.
I know it's an obvious statement to make, like, oh, it's a great movie, Christopher Reeve does a good job, but folks in the chat, I'm sure you can all relate to this. Sometimes you just watch a movie and it hits right, even though you've seen it 2 dozen times, and you're just like, yeah. That's how I felt over the weekend with Superman. I'll just call it Superman, not Superman 78. I sat there and I watched it, and I just was blown away. And then I started to watch Superman 2, and I fell asleep because while it's good, it's not as good as the first one.
It's not as good. And I know what's really ironic is that people refer to the Christopher Reeve Superman films as also the Donner films, but Donner only got to do one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell he's not there for the rest of them, like, at all. And funny that you said that. Just yesterday, Chris Gore shared with me the first draft. It's an audio podcast called Superman Reborn, which is based off the first draft, which has never been released. The earliest drafts officially released were the third draft, and I got all of them. And this was going to be Superman 5 with Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder at the time, before Warner Brothers ended up securing the film rights outright from the Salkinds, and then Christopher Reeve having his accident. So that's a YouTube video. I'll share you guys with the link in a few moments when I pull it up, the history of it. But check it out, because it's even got a nice little Q&A afterwards from Elio Salkind, and you can tell that he is still doing the cocaine to this day.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh like that, but
still doing the cocaine.
Well, I mean, nose candy is sweet, they say.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean, it's it's an interesting script. It's actually the first of the Superman scripts to ever have swear words in it, but they're used very sparingly. And voice cast is actually quite great, and they have fun with it. So I just put it in the private chat. If you guys want to share it out to the audience for seeing it afterwards, check it out. It's 3 hours long, but the movie itself and the reading of it is about like 2 hours 20 minutes. So it's typical of a Superman film. And then they got the Q&A afterwards with the original writer and Elias Salkind.
Folks, we will share that for you at the end of the night, because I'm probably going to listen to that at the end of the night myself. Long live Superman. Hopefully the new one does not stink. But we're on the
Fingers
countdown for
crossed.
that. 6 months away. 6 months away.
Yeah, I'm just aside from the fact that it looks like the most broadest world of Superman we've ever seen in screen on this size, I'm really hoping it's got some quotable lines to it. Like, you can quote Guardians of the Galaxy pretty easy. Like, the whole "I'm Mary Poppins," that's funny stuff. So I'm hoping that we get at that, because even the Snyder Bros have trouble quoting something that's legitimately memorable from any of the Henry Cavill things, which gets us towards Flash.
Well, you know what? Since you brought that up, let's talk about it. So,
fake laughter hiding real
yeah,
pain.
I know, right? Folks, 2 years ago, nearly, we suffered through one of the biggest bombs in superhero history. Hell, in cinematic history, The Flash. The movie that seemed to be in production forever. There were rewrites, reshoots, everything. You put a re in front of it. Hell, it's a re movie itself. If you know what it means, you know what that means. But over the last 2 years and change, people haven't really talked about it because, like I said a moment ago, it was a monumental failure. And I personally enjoy The Flash as more than your average moviegoer comic book person. Flash is cool. I liked the New 52 stuff. I liked Flashpoint. I like the character overall. Francis Manapul, good artist. Who else was working on
clean as hell.
Carmine Infantino, excellent artist from back in the day. I got respect for The Flash. But when this movie came out 2 years ago, it represented a problem that I have with modern entertainment. It made no goddamn sense. Nobody seemed to know what the movie was trying to do. Nobody seemed to have a direction for the film. And lo and behold, here we are almost 2 years later, and it's in the news again. Not because it's broken a streaming record or Ezra Miller fell off a cliff or some crazy shit. No. The director has been talking about it again because he's claiming that the film failed because women aren't interested in the Flash as a character. Now, I don't think women are as interested in 90% of the shit we're all talking about here on this channel, but it still makes money. So this comment makes no sense. Andrew, script, what do you think of this shit?
I mean, look, we're geeks. We exist in the geek space. We're Star Wars fans. We're comic book guys. This is not new news. This is not breaking news. No one's breaking any headlines here. We all know that our spaces have, for the most part, been vast majority male demographic. That's not to say that there aren't diehard female fans in this space. There absolutely are, and the ones who are have been here the whole time because they love this stuff just as much as we do, and they dedicate themselves to loving it and understanding it and knowing it as much as we do. But the fact of the matter is, they make an infinitesimal amount comparative to the overarching majority. And so to bring that up is just the most absurd thing imaginable. Oh, women don't like the character of the Flash. It's not appealing to them. Or just like people don't care about the Flash. I'm sorry. I could screenshot right now, despite the fact of all of its faults. The CW had a 9-season series on the Flash that was like their best show in terms of viewership. All right, so you can't give me that nonsense. What you did was you headlined a film with a character that wasn't Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman, and you headlined it with an actor no one liked. And then you told us that the premise was something that wasn't going to matter. So there was no investment, and there was no reason to get invested. There was no reason to give a crap about the film. This film had everything going against it. Like, Michael Keaton couldn't save this movie.
No, and he is the best part of it. So.
He is.
Agreed.
He absolutely is. That's a super low bar, but he's definitely the best part of the movie. The movie's awful. Its CGI is awful. The story doesn't make any sense. They decided to call it Flashpoint and has nothing to do with Flashpoint.
But Andrew, you hit the nail on the head. Michael Keaton is the selling point of the movie, and when he's not on screen, we're not paying attention.
No.
That whole movie is literally predicated on Michael Keaton has returned as Batman. If you grew up in the 90s, or technically as 89, but let's just say you grew up in the 90s like I did, watching him, it was a big deal. You got the feelings, and then he was great. He actually was awesome and did a good job, but you had to deal with that hokey-ass weird runner and all that crap, and it just... I wish they would have pulled a bait and switch, and that you went and saw this Flash movie. The Flash got kicked in the dick like 30 minutes in, and then it was just a Batman movie. Like, would anybody in the chat have bitched if it was just nonstop Michael Keaton?
No. As long as it was written well, but yeah.
It would have to be good, but I'm just saying, like, if it was straight up just Michael Keaton, like, oh no, that kid died, I guess I'll have to take up the fight, and it's just Batman and, like, just Batman. Like, I would watch that movie and be happy.
Well, yeah, because it's already not a Flash movie, because that's not the Flash. As a Flash fan, like, nobody that went to see this movie that's a comic book fan went to see it because they were excited to see Ezra Miller play not Barry Allen. They went to see it because Michael Keaton was making his on-screen return as Batman. That's the only reason, because anybody that's worth half a damn in terms of being a comic book fan saw Justice League, whether it was the Justice League or whether it was the Snyder Cut, and went and said, I don't know who that is. That's not, you're calling him Barry Allen. That's not Barry Allen. That's not any iteration of the Flash ever. So I don't know who this little brat is that is making really lame jokes. It's not even funny. It's not even like, oh my gosh, that's so bad it's funny. It's just like you're trying to force something funny down our throats, and it's not working.
Zack Snyder's golden boy, man. I mean, remember, he doesn't have a casting director. He picked all of these guys, and all the other directors that were involved in doing the follow-up individual films were stuck with the cast they didn't get to select, and they had to do their best. Now, to your point, this Flash film, like, Ezra Miller was not the Flash. The fact that it underperformed kind of proves that the whole fan favorite Oscar of the Flash moment going back in time, somehow beating Captain America, picking up Mjolnir, it was complete and utter BS, even more so, because where were all those Flash fans that voted for that Oscar to show up into the theaters for it? The other part is that for some strange reason, Warner Brothers decided to delay the movie an additional year instead of dropping it right before the Batman, which it should have, because then it would have been able to, you would have saved at least a year's worth of expenses on the budget for it as well. The tragic aspect is that it leans into some of the more revisionist aspects of the Flash, one of which is that I hate the most because they've made it canon as opposed to making it a cool story gimmick, is that Reverse Flash goes back in time, kills Barry's mom, and frames his dad for it, and that's how you have this tragic origin story for the Flash, which he didn't need. Because if you were to ask me to pitch you a Flash trilogy, I would do Flash basic origin, which has a strong romance theme with him falling in love with Iris West. Second film would be Eobard Thawne going back and framing his father for his mother's murder, and him kind of trying to reorient himself, knowing that time travel is possible with his powers. And then the third movie being the restoration of that, the victory over Eobard Thawne, and then becoming, the Scarlet Speeder of Central City through a nice little dramatic part where you actually realize, oh, you can have a superhero that doesn't have a tragic origin story to him as well, but you can also have your cake and eat it too, because you can still factor that in as the bad guy tried to retcon the hero, but the hero is so strong that no matter how much you try to change his past, he still perseveres. And that would be the arc that you do in that type of trilogy, each one being its own individual story as well. Instead, what they did in this part of the Flash, which was in production hell for a decade, is they tried to do every single Flash story. They tried to do his origin, they tried to do his Flashpoint, they tried to do some type of resolution to him exonerating his father, all in one film, which it was too much to put in there, and also didn't have much meaning.
It was a schizophrenic script.
Yeah.
And a schizophrenic actor.
Yeah. It's being nice.
I would have cast Lucas Till. I know now people are looking at like Glenn Powell. I think he's a little bit too old for it, but
I would in a heartbeat cast Glenn Powell as a like late 20s, early 30s Barry Allen.
Yeah,
he would be picture perfect for it.
Yeah,
for me.
He's just a little. I guess never mind. I guess Ezra Miller's short too.
Ezra Miller is a short Jewish boy that for some reason looks Asian, and it just doesn't compute to me.
Yeah, he's a weird looking guy. When they first showed him in Batman versus Superman, and he had that little dirt stash, and I'm like, wait a second, that's the Flash? Because my first introduction to the Flash was a Toy Biz action figure. It was probably released in '89. I received it somewhere in the early '90s. It was one of those toys that I remember having as a child, but I don't remember getting it. I just always had the Flash. And so I knew that the Flash was this guy that could run really fast. And then every once in a while, I'd catch the show on TV, the John Wesley Ship Show. And
Yeah.
then when the Justice League rolled around in the early 2000s, I'm, end of grade school, I'm still watching cartoons. And he was great. I love the Justice League cartoon. And that version of the Flash is just so fun to watch. And so I thought, oh, great, we're going to get that on film. But then we get this Dirt Stash guy, and I thought, okay, well, maybe he's a good actor. He just doesn't look the part in my mind. No, he sucks. And then he does this fucking running shit like this. Like, I am not a runner. I am not a svelte man. But I know, like, you run, or if you're the Terminator, the T-1000, you run like this to be aerodynamic. But you don't wave your
Or if you
arm
want to
like
be
you're doing
truly
dances.
superhuman, you run like Tom Cruise.
Dude, you cannot run like Tom Cruise, even if you
Yeah.
try, okay?
He's running like he's a speed skater, and that's wrong.
Yeah, varsity cross country and track runner here. Hi, watching Ezra Miller doing his speed skater BS on dry land made me want to shoot myself in the face.
Shout out to Swift -1 for the greatest comment of the night, the flush. I wish they would have flushed this movie down the damn toilet.
It never should have released.
No. But we've discussed why it failed. It definitely failed. Is there anything you can do? Okay, let me rephrase that. How long until the Flash is able to kind of come back out in cinemas? Do you think it's going to take a decade? Do we have to wait till 2032, 2033 to get a Flash movie? Or do
No,
you
we'll probably
think...
get one by 2029.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Full film or just part of part of an ensemble?
the smarter thing to do would probably be a full film. Listen, like right now, based on that trailer, James Gunn has already established that this world has had superheroes. Now, we don't really know the exact position of them. I'm crossing my fingers that he rolls back his Batman pitch so that it's more of a contemporary to Superman, because that's usually where you get the most fun out of them. We've already seen a dynamic where Batman is like 20 years older than Superman in the Snyder stuff, and it just doesn't line up well, because there's something about the contemporaries having different experiences and also learning along the way, and then coming to a friendship where they find an understanding of why they're different. Each of their methods work for where they are, but how they can also vacillate between the methods when they're working together, especially once they form a Justice League, because that's kind of like the peak part of them. I mean, I know a lot of people like the World's Finest stuff, but I enjoyed when they worked together and the full team, because you've got a dynamic of not just a singular leadership, but like a council of like wisdom among Batman and Superman, sharing that with the rest of the team, with Wonder Woman and sometimes Aquaman chiming in there with some pretty interesting thoughts. So that would be, I think that would probably work out better. So I suspect that we'll probably get a Flash movie after we figure out what Wonder Woman's going to be. And I would be surprised. And if Superman does well and the thing goes the distance, I'd be surprised if we didn't get a Flash movie prior to 2030.
So is Wonder Woman going to be black or Asian next time?
They're looking at a couple of actresses that one is Greek looking, one is Latina looking, but she does look a lot like the classic Diana Prince. She just happens to be Latina.
Latinas are great.
Yeah, I mean, she's busty, got that narrow jaw,
Script,
but
you've
a little
already
bit
said enough. You've already said enough.
got a little bit of that square jaw.
I was already gonna watch it. You don't have to sell me on it harder. Right.
So,
as long as she looks the part and she can play the part, like
so the two things
what
that
matters
Gal
to me.
Gadot didn't have.
Yeah, like she has a very beautiful face.
Yeah.
But she's a twig. Like in the Fast and Furious movie, when she's in that bikini, I was like, oh, if the wind blows, she'll die. Like,
If she were to
Not
walk
blow
across-
away, she'll just die.
if you see her nude from like the waist up, you'd think it was the body of a torso of a boy. I mean, you just there's nothing there.
I liked her, and I thought she brought a lot until I watched Wonder Woman 84. Then I went, I'm done with you, lady. Like, I get it. It's the script. It's not her.
Mhm.
But have you guys ever watched a movie that was so off-putting that you just don't want to see that actor ever play the character again? That was me. Like, even when she showed up in Shazam, I went, whatever. No big deal.
Yeah.
I'm done. Wait, was this Shazam before Wonder Woman 84? Excuse me.
No,
Shazam 2
she was in the Shazam 2. That's when she
Okay.
started, and that was after 84.
That was not a great film.
No, however, that was better than the Flash and Wonder Woman 84. Still a low bar,
Agreed.
but yeah. I mean, what's
Lot of
crazy
heart
is
from
that
those
the
actors.
actress that got to play Mary Marvel, she looks more like Wonder Woman than Gal Gadot.
I like her.
Yeah.
She should be in more stuff. Like, yeah,
Well, I mean,
recast her
she's
as
married
Wonder
and she
Woman.
wants to start a family, so let her.
Oh, good for that guy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for her too. Anything else you guys want to say about the Flash? Because clearly it's women that the reason why it didn't resonate. It wasn't,
Right.
you know, folks. It wasn't images like what I'm about to put on screen right now. No. Forget a poorly written movie with a dumbass looking Batman and George Clooney. No. You know, it was women. It wasn't like random shit like this where his head just kind of pops out of the air and he saves a baby by putting it in a microwave. That all happened in that movie, right?
All the physics that they could have had fun with this movie, they did not. And the fact that the director's not blaming the audience or the fans technically. What he is blaming is the fact that the Flash is not a character that can draw in an audience. And I would say a poor mechanic blames his tools. You know, James Gunn had the most D-level superhero team in Marvel Comics history thrust upon them, and he made that a household name. You were picked by, not James Gunn, by Warner Brothers Studios to essentially do the same thing for The Flash, who already had some pretty decent name recognition, not just with the John Wesley Shipp series from the 90s that actually kind of became a cult classic.
It's the
but the
CW
fact that
TV
the
show.
CW
Even yeah.
was the biggest CW show on that network with a 1.2 share, which is actually terrible in the general aspects of networks, but great for that little guy. And you couldn't even capitalize on that, even when you put Ezra Miller in a cameo scene of that CW series to try and pump up notice of this movie.
Mhm.
A poor director blames the character that they're stuck working with instead of trying to do everything they can to make that character worthy of your attention.
I don't ever need to see the Flash again, but I'm willing to give it a shot if James Gunn can impress me in the next 6 months. I want to believe in all these things, folks. I want to go in July. I want to sit down in my theater with my Superman. I don't own a Superman shirt, so let's not act like I'm a diehard Superman fan. I want to show up in my plain T-shirt and with my bucket of popcorn, and I want to watch a movie, and I want to be entertained, and I want to cheer for Superman. Because I'll tell you, man, when I watched the Christopher Reeve one, when he saves the helicopter, or when he goes on that tear to stop all the crime, I'm like, all right. And then at the end, when he looks into the camera and like nods and flies off, I'm like, yeah, Superman, let's do this. So a good Superman will set me up for an entire franchise. So DC, the ball's in your court for a lot of listeners out there. So, guys, let's check in with the audience, and then let's keep moving forward. Folks, hit that thumbs up button. I can't believe this has gone an hour already. This has been a lot of fun. But, Enrique, we owe you this button. This is your number 53. Ooh, yeah, macho man. Thank you, Enrique. Enrique also messages us again and says, also started watching High Life with Robert Pattinson, but had to stop 30 minutes in. It was not my type. Did you guys watch it? If so, what did you think of it? Did not watch it. Did you guys watch it?
I think I did. If that's the one where he's trying to help out his brother and then ends up getting the wrong kid and then has to go back and do that. That actually was a pretty interesting film. I enjoyed it myself, but that's just me.
The only thing I've watched recently was Squid Game, so I'm all caught up with that, and now I'm back to work. You guys watch that one at all?
No, I haven't seen this sequel.
Haven't seen the first one.
Oh, watch it. I like it. I think Squid Game's cool.
I remember everybody was talking about it and losing their minds over it and saying it was great. I rarely watch anything these days.
I honestly think it's worth a lot of the hype.
All right.
I like it. It's if I'm not gonna like quiz you on it, but if you don't know a lot about it, go in and give it a shot. Like if you've already kind of got an idea of what it is, that shock element won't be there. But don't read about it online. Like just blindly watch it. And I thought the second season was gonna be derivative, but by the time I got to what's supposed to be like, it seems like a mid-season finale, but they're calling it the third season's gonna drop in June. Like I was on board, and I remember sitting here watching it not right before the show, but a couple hours ago, and I'm like, man, this is great. Oh shit, there's 7 minutes left. This is not going to end. And now I gotta wait months and months. Like, come on, guys.
This
They got
is a
you.
new Netflix gimmick. They're doing the same with Cobra Kai. I think that drops in a couple of weeks. The final leg of that series, and
I gotta
yeah.
catch up. I was gonna watch season 2 before I moved to California, and I never did, and now I'm 5 years behind. So let me take a week and watch Cobra Kai. That could be fun, right?
You're super far behind.
yeah, I mean, we'll see some repetition with season 2 and 3, but 4 and 5 and what they've been doing with 6 will be pretty satisfying. I
Folks
think.
in the chat, tell us your favorite Karate Kid film. Mine is the first one. Script?
Yeah, the first one is the best one. Although 3 has some charm to it, but no, and 2 is two is crazy. But yeah, the first one is the best one. Elizabeth Shue is top notch, still is to this day.
Oh yeah, if you're talking top notch for the reasons I'm thinking, definitely.
For every reason, not just on the fact that she's charming and a good actress, but she's also like she's one of the few actresses that's legitimately intelligent.
Mm.
You can have conversations.
I feel like she can kick ass when you put her in the right role too. Like I know she's in stuff like Leaving Las Vegas, which is an Oscar-winning film, but then you could put her in something as shitty as Piranha, and I laughed. Like she plays the mom cop, and I like her in that movie too.
Oh no, she's got a sense of humor too, and she also has that flexibility. Like she was an it girl in the '80s, and she decided I'm going to be very selective of what I do, and worked out for her. And she's one of the few actresses I was able to leave for a time, do a family thing, get a PhD, and then come back. I mean, she was brilliant in Hamlet too, which is a very funny indie film where she plays a nurse who then decides to get back into acting afterwards.
I love Steve Coogan. If you don't know who Steve Coogan, folks, is, look him up. That guy's hilarious.
Oh yeah, he's the director in Tropic Thunder.
Damien Cockburn. Yeah. What a name. I love when he steps on the landmine and then Ben Stiller picks up his head and like tries to eat the innards. He's like, ugh. I love that movie.
Yeah. I was actually just talking about that on the last episode of my show.
How great Tropic Thunder is?
Yeah, and also how when you're dealing with certain characters, the difference between like genuine comedy and arrogance comedy. So there's arrogance comedy where the comedy itself is just arrogant, and then there's genuine comedy where you're making fun of an arrogant character. And if you can figure out how those two are different than each other, just aside from just the general words, and identify them, that's the differential. That's the differential between something that's going to stick with you versus something that doesn't. Because we reviewed on my channel Decoys, which is about 2 CIA agents who find out that they're not really spy agents. They're just sent into missions as a distractions while the real spies do all the work. And it has a handful of jokes there, which are just sketch comedy, arrogant jokes. Like one of them being, "Hey, do you like this drink? Yes, it's made from a fruit that's no longer exists anymore." It's like that's a joke you find in a sketch show. It's funny for what it is, but for the rest of the tone of a feature film, it really sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's just, it's one of those things where we're making fun of the wealthy elite with a very arrogant joke about how they're the only ones that will ever have access to an extinct tropical fruit for a beverage. And it's tonally not appropriate for feature films or even television. It's better for stage or sketch.
Alan Partridge referenced by Zombie Box Reviews in the chat. Yeah, folks, watch the Alan Partridge everything. Watch the movie, watch the show, watch the Knowing You, Knowing Me, aha crap. Like, yeah, I've watched a lot of Alan Partridge. Thank you, Zombie Box Reviews. But Enrique says, nope, it's about space prisoners and spanking monk.
Okay.
Ooh. It's a movie with Robert Pattinson about spanking monks. All right.
Okay.
I have
That's
a
a
different
that's
Robert
a
Pattinson
premise.
film.
He's not an actor that I dislike, but he's also not an actor I like. The only reason I picked up his Batman movie is because I needed a third movie on my Amazon list to get the deal 3 for $33. Other than that, yeah.
Hey, man, that's good a reason as any, right?
Dude, I have a weird rule. I collect one Batman figure from every movie. So I have a Robert Pattinson Bat figure, but I also have 2 George Clooney's. So, I mean, I gotta complete the collection. Whoever's the next Batman, I'll buy your toy too. Now, Mary Mayhem, what is up? Mary Mayhem says, Andrew is my favorite Karate Kid.
I'm a little older than a kid, but thank you.
Do you know karate, Andrew?
Probably not anymore, but I took it for 15 years when I was younger.
You remind me of, was it that Rick James skit on Chappelle's show? He's like, look at Andrew taking karate with the little kids. I just imagine
Hey, man, I bet I'm really good with karate against them little kids. Screw them kids.
Yeah, just do back kicks and shit. Folks in the chat, if you want to watch Andrew do his kata, let me know at the end of the stream. We will open up the cameras and Andrew will do his form.
Nah, I'm K.
Yeah, it's a little late for there's a little late for martial arts. Sorry, stuff's falling off my desk. All right, folks, let's start talking about the next topic. And this is the big shift in entertainment, because you got to remember something, folks. There are movies, there are games, there are all sorts of forms of entertainment. But something that is near and dear to my heart because it's a passion, and something that is near and dear to Andrew's heart and Script's heart because, well, it's a passion as well as an interest. But comics. Now, we're not going to talk about how bad Marvel is. You know our take on a lot of modern heroes. We're not going to sit and rail on DC because you know how boring they can be. But one of the biggest distributors in comics is filing for bankruptcy, and it looks like the world of comics is going to keep changing, possibly. So, guys, we've all been to comic shops. We know what it's like to get your diamond book, that big, fat catalog every month where you pick out, ooh, I'm going to get this, and I want this, and I want that. I love that shit. But sadly, it's soon to be no more, possibly, because Diamond Collectibles has filed, Diamond Comic Distributors has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. All of their properties, including Diamond Select Toys, Gentle Giant, and AFA, are now up for sale. Some UK assets have a bid courtesy of Universal Distribution. I can speak. That leaves Diamond Select Toys and Gentle Giant, which are a long time staples of collectors, but also, you know, Diamond is where you get a lot of comics historically. So this news came from Business Wire. According to them, Diamond is $41 million in debt. And so it looks like they're going to be going away. Now, Diamond has released a press statement where they're talking about how they want to maintain full transparency. They fully intend to release all of their orders and do everything in an upright manner. But, you know, guys, we're all in the comic book field in some regards. What did you think about this news?
Not surprised.
Yeah,
Really?
it's not really surprising knowing the current state of the mainstream. Comic book shops that are still sticking around and those that are doing well, more or less, are doing so not because of the new issues that are dropping each week. They're doing so because they're selling Pokemon cards and Magic cards and hosting tournaments there with buy-ins, and they're selling tabletop gaming stuff, which is incredibly expensive, and people drop big money on those things, and those are very niche hobbies that don't have a ton of locations that you can go get them in person with. You can order just about anything online, right? But to go in person somewhere and be able to shop around for whether it's your minifigs, your larger figs, or your D&D books and all of that, like, comic book shops have become the currently still successful ones are more just kind of like hobby shops than anything else now. Like I've got a pretty large LCS that I go to each week. The bulk of the store is not comic books. The bulk of the store is your D&D stuff, your collectibles. They have a huge selection of statues, Star Wars Black Series figures, things like that. This doesn't shock me at all because the comic book industry, as I said, has been in a rough spot for a while now. A lot of that is of their own making. A lot of that is of their own doing. The model that the comic book industry has used for decades is a curious one. There are a lot of hands that things exchange from one to the next for before a customer actually gets their book. And therefore, the profits, what little there is to be made from these, $4 to $6 floppy books, the profits for that are actually pretty small as well. And so this was, I think, always kind of a house of cards that was going to eventually topple. And we're just finally seeing that come to bear out. Now, Marvel and DC both, if I'm remembering correctly, have moved away from Diamond already. Like DC is it Penguin that DC's doing? Or is it Marvel? One of them. Anyway.
One of them has Penguin. The other one's self-shipping, I think.
I think Marvel's the self one.
That sounds right. Yeah. So they've moved away from Diamond. So Diamond also just lost, within the last handful of years, they lost two of their biggest, clients. Now, to be fair, there are many companies that do file Chapter 11, they get bought out, refinanced, whatever, and then they end up limping along or sometimes making a little bit of a comeback. Whether that's going to happen with Diamond, I don't know. I couldn't say for sure, but it seems unlikely just because what are they going to do? You're a comic book distributor. You're not going to survive just off of like IDW and Image and Boom and Dynamite, right? Like that they're not large enough clients. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see even those comic book publishers start to branch out and find other distributors. And honestly, I think if a lot of these companies are smart, they'll start to whittle away at the number of hands that things need to exchange from to actually start to widen that profit margin.
Oh, yeah, because you don't need as many people on a comic book as some of these people think, You need a writer and artist, because nowadays a lot of artists can ink and color, or if not, you can just get that taken care of. But you really only need I need 3 people to make this stuff happen. But realistically, if I can make it happen with 3 people, a big company can make it happen with 3 people. I think there's a lot of, especially with Marvel, like, this is a completely different topic, but I'm just going to go on this rant for a quick second. Like, their editorial staff is fucking useless. How many times do we read about decisions that they make, choices that they push? It's not really, they're not needed. Like, all these pointless writers at Marvel and DC can go away. You can get a couple of good people and streamline your books. It's like, you want to put Batman out every week? Okay, fine. Make a great story of why Batman's out every week and get like 4 people to draw it. And do this and do that. Like, you could make this medium can exist with very few people. Like, I think if anyone's out there that's ever even thought about doing their own book, if you're going to do books and you're going to try to make money from it and make it as a stream of revenue for yourself, learn how to do as many steps of the process as possible. Because it's
one less person that you have to pay.
Yeah, because I got a friend who is a good writer. He's a talented guy. We've worked together in the past. But he's required to hire a penciler and an inker and a colorist and a letterer, and then he's got to get it distributed. He's got to get it printed and this and that. And, his profit margins are razor thin or non-existent. And then there's me, who has spent the time putting it in, and, like, I need somebody to color my book. I could get somebody to letter it, and I do because just for the sake of time, but, like, that's it. And I don't know why, if I can make a living and do this repeatedly as just one dude, why can't these major corporations find a way to make these things, I get it, you need to have people, it's an industry, but also, too, why can't you just find the right people? Stop getting the people that want to use this to get their foot in the door and work at Netflix or work on a Lifetime Christmas movie. Just find people that like this stuff and make it profitable. There's money in this. And here's why I push for it always being around or being profitable is we're running out of look. They're only going to adapt so many movies, and they're going to keep getting cyclical for a while. Eventually, they'll run out of material, and they'll need new stuff to adapt. They'll need new stuff to sell. They'll need new stuff to make toys off of. And, you got to keep comics alive. It's one of the great American art forms. I don't ever like to see any of this go. And I know Diamond's an adjacent thing to it, but the collector market's not going anywhere. The collectible market is continuing to grow. New companies enter the fray all the time. And sadly, the big ones that don't know what they're doing, they end up at Ollie's. And that's where we come in. But this whole situation, I think for me personally, the reason I wanted to bring it up is I sometimes don't like when a giant goes away or change happens. Sometimes I like the way things are. And with Diamond, you just, you go into your shop, you pick up your book, you look at what you want, you tell the guy, and, in 6 weeks, there's your little figure. There's your book. There's this, there's that. I don't know, man. Maybe I just like the creature comforts of being a geek.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. I mean, one of the things I think hurt the industry overall is the fact that Diamond did attain way too much distribution power, and that
they effectively had kind of a monopoly for a while.
Exactly, and they ended up having a really terrible model in how they ordered and how they negotiated those rates. And if you wanted to be an indie using Diamond, you could, but you're not going to be the preferred customer because you'd never be able to do the frequency of issues needed in order to get those discounted rates that you would want. The other part too is I'm wondering within the last 20 years how many issues are actually going to stand the test of time and be part of the collector market in 20 years from now. When you take a look at the metric from decades of the 90s, 80s, 70s, and previously.
Very few from 2017 to now.
Let's take it even back a little further, Andrew. Like, there are going to be some people that want to tell you that the introduction of the 15th Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel reboot is going to bring in people. No, it's not. I would argue, if we're looking just at Marvel, because I'm not a DC enthusiast. I'm not going to act like I know my shit like I do with Marvel books. But I'd argue you can take it back to Marvel almost 25 years in terms of like actual important issues. There's like the Spider-Man 9/11 issue. There's the death of Captain America. That we're kind of already, and then Civil War and some of the bigger titles, and now we're starting to fall apart quickly. Because I'd say Marvel Comics died for me 15 years or 12 years ago, roughly. Like their books have been shit for the last 12 years, and there's really not much else to do with those characters. All they keep doing is making them boring. They sit around and talk and vent. It's like these comics have become a writer-driven medium, and I think that's the biggest problem. I will stand on that platform. Writers aren't the be-all, end-all, because a comic book artist is a creator in their own regard. Like, folks, if you've ever read a classic Marvel book, a lot of those books were the artist was given an outline and an idea, and they said, Captain America fights the Hulk for 3 pages, and we'll use Spider-Man. So, for example, David Michelinie wrote to Todd McFarlane, Spider-Man fights the Incredible Hulk. Well, Todd McFarlane says, hey, I'm going to have the Hulk throw an ambulance at Spider-Man and this and that, and you get these really wonderful things. But you get these writers that micromanage comic books, and all it is they stand around and talk. Miss Marvel has an epiphany. So-and-so takes a shit. It's like, I don't want to watch Captain America and Iron Man have a cup of coffee for 5 pages. What I do want to watch is, oh no, the Crimson Dynamo escaped. What are we going to do? Get the suitcase. Boom, boom, boom. And Iron Man flies off and fights him. Like, it's the most straightforward medium that even children make their own comic books and they can make sense. But for some reason, these highfalutin writers of the modern age can't write shit. And they get entrenched and locked in there. If you don't have people on Twitter say, I've written 700 comic books, I know what I'm talking about. Listen, lady, you don't know shit. Half of these people, they want to spend all day on Twitter looking for brownie points for some other crap. Like, I wish these companies actually cared. It's the weirdest thing, because I've never seen companies just like, we don't care if we live or die. We make our money from the movies or this or that. It's, people in the chat say it's a dying medium. I think it's a situation where it's not necessarily a dying medium, it's frozen. And it could be great. It could do more if they actually wanted to.
Well, DC's model for the last few decades has been basically a commercial advertisement for their merchandise. And that's worked out fairly well with them. It also helps the fact that Warner Brothers purchased Detective Comics, and they're essentially one of their publishing wings of that studio, which was a smart move for them, and it was also beneficial to DC because they'll, as so long as Warner Brothers is functioning, they're never going to go away. Because they're a loophole to Warner Brothers in regards of, if they want to make a new character, they can, and they'll by default own the rights to it. But at the same time, and I think this has to do with Neil Adams's lobbying back in the late 60s, early 70s, lobbying for creator rights, thus getting Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's names back on Superman as creators. I think that's the reason why a lot of artists and writers that worked for DC, even though they may have left, due to politics or what have you, like Chuck Dixon, they still get very solid residuals from them because of that metric that I think was established because of Neil Adams saying, hey, do you want to be assholes like Marvel across the street and screw over your creators, or do you want to be the one that actually relishes the fact that you've got these characters in your arsenal and that you can actually do something with them? And the fact that worked out the way it did shows you the different types of relationships we have. Like Marvel needed Disney to save it. DC was doing okay. Warner Brothers purchased it because they saw potential there, especially once they started seeing the early returns on Superman, the movie. And when they realized that they didn't have the rights because the Salkinds had them, they spent decades trying to figure out a way to get those rights exclusive under Warner Brothers. They did the same thing with Michael Uslan, but he still owns the rights, but it's under the distribution contract of Warner Brothers. So when he passes away and his estate goes to his family, there's a good chance that Warner Brothers will then have the Batman rights outright for them instead of having to go through Michael Uslan or whoever, if his estate takes over that area. However, all those productions that Uslan did, his family will get huge residuals on new mediums of distribution for those as well, because that's what Warner Brothers and DC has promised them, and it's their metric there. The other part too, when you're taking a look at like the importance of writers and artists, it's a collaborative team. Like you need a good writer that can actually tell a proper narrative, and you need a great artist that can interpret that narrative to make it exciting enough for the reader to enjoy. And if you don't have that proper relationship, it's never going to work. That's why, like the Marvel method, it was kismet for the writers and artists that were able to pull that off, and it was no easy task either, because now you have you get an outline, you do the artwork, and then the writer has to resolve the puzzle all over again. Because what if you get a situation where Ant-Man, for some strange reason, slaps Janet Van Dyne when he was supposed to not do that at all? So now you have to completely change the narrative of what you're doing. And yeah, you're able to take it into an interesting area with the character, but you've also caused a little bit of a divide, because the readers of those Ant-Man comics were like saying, what the heck, Hank Pym would never do this. But, you had an outline and you left it up to the artist, and the artist decided to take a liberty, have fun with it, take it in an interesting direction. And it eventually led to us getting Yellow Jacket and a very complicated history between Hank Pym and Janet. And you have to say, like, well, that's a happy accident, but you can't predict that all the time. Then you get into like the current era that you were talking about, like the stuff that I've only perused because I got out of reading newer comics by 2006. I was just going into back issues since then. And you find out that, yeah, you've basically got an outline on the Marvel side of things. And it's not an audio recorded conversation from a Zoom meeting. It's a text exchange of ideas that are thrown to an artist, some artists which are great and some that are really not to the standard of what Marvel used to have, but they're just there to pump out pages. And you're seeing two completely different methods of story narration. Like the artist doing one way, and then you have a panel where they take a piece of art, they clip it out, they then shrink it down with the characters, and then have this giant white background so they can put this massive body of text in there to fill in the gaps that they just didn't talk to the artist about in the first place. And so you've got this very heavily wordy, boring story that doesn't have a proper balance between the dialogue that needs to be spoken, the narration that needs to be incorporated, and the visuals that fill in fill in the rest.
Yeah, there's a man, comic books are such a beautiful and unique medium. And when I actually wrote an article for the Rippaverse website regarding this, that there is a really special thing with the relationship between writer and artist when they have that synergy, right? When they're communicating and you really hit a stride and you got a good vibe going and you understand each other. And man, like a comic between a penciler and a writer that really get each other, like get each other's styles, know how to play to each other's strengths. You get some of the coolest entertainment in the world when you have that happen, right? Because not all of us are multi-talents like Jeff, where he can write and he can draw. So he's in constant communication with himself, and that's easy. He doesn't have to wait for somebody to text him back. He can just like do it, right? But
I would hate making comic books if look, I've worked with other people, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, but like, I don't enjoy it because most writers I interact with think their ideas are so like amazing and deep, and it's like, just give me the outline of what you need to be put on the paper, because I don't need to know character A's motivation and tell me that his mom likes extra butter on her toast. Like, that's the only thing I complain about working with writers, is they like, don't pitch me. You want me? All right, fine. Tell me what the assignment is. Give me a deadline and tell me what, you're working with. We'll make it work. I think that's my own complaint. But anyway, you're right, though. When it works, it works. But I do think throughout history, because history and lawsuits and certain things like that, I don't think as many of the great iconic books are multiple people. I think a lot of the great books are truly one person. Frank Miller's work, his best work is just him. I get it. Lynn Varley colors his stuff, but like his Batman work, his Daredevil work, and you would say, oh, what about Born Again? That's drawn by David Mazzucchelli. It's great. It's awesome. It's a 10 out of 10. But you can argue his work where he draws it and Elektra's involved and Bullseye. It's one guy. And manga's usually one person. Toriyama and Otomo and all these guys. I am honestly on the independent platform of do it all yourself, because it's not about even being satisfying. It's a different product, because you're not getting somebody that's inspired by this type of writing, trying to get this tone, trying to do this, trying to do that. Sometimes when you can do it all, it's the most pure form of a story. It's folks, imagine, write your own movie in your head. Now imagine being able to put it on paper, 1-to-1 for what you're seeing in your head, and then getting other people on board. That's kind of what I do, and that's what a lot of other independent creators do. I think that's the most interesting part of the independent medium. That being said, I want everybody to make their own books, and I want everyone to, even if you just write them, go do it. Like, don't stop just because I think, hey, the people that write and draw them are more interesting. Go ahead and do it all. But like, not every artist should write books. Neil Adams, the greatest Batman artist, arguably, and one of the greatest artists of all time, should not have written Batman Odyssey.
No.
But his work with Denny O'Neil is the chef's kiss of perfection. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Even his concept for doing Man-Bat worked well, but he needed help with it.
Yeah,
and you can tell. And that's the other part too. I know a number of indie artists out there that haven't even done like comic book stuff, but they do other independent artworks. And when they try to pitch a story, you can tell that all they can rely on is the visuals, and they can't rely on the motivation. And to your point, Jeff, if you're getting a writer that's telling you character motivation in their details for a visual medium, they're treating you like you're an actor as opposed to the storyboard artist, which all they have to say is, this guy's in a panic, and he's panicking because on this panel this is happening, and I want that relationship. That's all you got to say to the artist, because that's all they actually need. And that is something that I learned like years ago, especially when working with storyboard artists. It's like, do you want to read the script, or do you just want me to tell you what the bullet points are for the shots that I have? And some will want to read the script and then they'll want the bullet points, and others will just want the bullet points. They don't care about the script at all. And you just have to work with that. And that's the best way to do it, because here's the other part too. You give them a 6-page or bullet points that cover, say, 20 pages. They will figure out what the story is just based on that alone. And they'll probably be about 70% right.
Right, yeah. If you're doing your job as a comic book writer and you're detailing those panel descriptions sufficiently for your artist, this is the emotion that this character should be feeling here. This is the expression I'm looking for. Blah blah blah. And if you're telling a good story there, your artist will understand. I'm assuming that since you handed them a script to read and therefore draw from, that they're a literate individual, they're going to understand. If they don't, or they need clarity on something, they'll ask.
Ideally, yeah, because the other person, you don't want them to spend
Right, yes.
so much time.
Maybe some won't.
You don't want them to spend so much time on a beautiful panel, and then you realize, well, I got to cover up a big portion of this with a dialogue bubble. So
Right.
maybe you want to know that beforehand, going ahead.
Also, too, there's a psychology to comic book creation that people don't pay attention to. And that is why manga and other things are so popular around the world. And that Marvel, here's the thing, you can look up numbers about comic books, and you can see that other places that print books, because we're just going to call it all comics, even though it's manga, or in French, whatever it would be called.
Bene Dessiné or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's all the same art form. But only in America are we having the failing sales and this and that, because what we harp on here in America isn't necessarily what readers abroad want, or younger readers want, or a way to attract new readers. Because I love books. You can just, throw me a book, I'll read it. Like, oh, Ghost Rider number 72, I'll give it a shot. But there is a barrier for entry with a lot of people. And it's not just necessarily the barrier of entry of, hey, I don't understand what's going on. Some people, there's not a lot of clarity in the pages, and there's a reliance on over rendering and certain things. It's like, I look at it like this, folks. Some movies are awesome because they have a great story and great acting. Some movies are memorable because they have great CGI. To me, a modern comic book that might be hot is like Avatar. Avatar made a bunch of money. Avatar is, 2 times their multi-billion-dollar pictures. But would you call Avatar great, or would you call Avatar hot because it made a bunch of money? Do we talk about the story of Jake Sully? Do we talk about the...
No.
I almost called them the Ferengi. I don't even remember what their names are. The Natiri? No.
The Navi?
The Navi. See, I can't even remember their goddamn names. But all I can tell you is that they were blue, and it was a bunch of nice-looking CGI. Mm-hmm. That's what I look at with a lot of these...
Some cool monster designs.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like... But it's forgettable. It's like, hey, that looked cool. And that movie's meant to be bigger and deeper. A lot of these books, they forget to build the base of relatability and understandability, and they just throw you these beautiful visuals, but they don't tell you a story. I'm a firm believer every comic should tell the full story without reading any of the dialogue. You should be able to look and go, okay, these characters are sitting here. This guy says something that pisses this guy off, and then they have a fight, and then something stops the fight, and then this guy, blah, blah, blah. That's the takeaway from it. And the simplicity resonates with people. And I'm not saying manga is a simple art form. I'm not trying to disrespect it. But let's say pick up a Dragon Ball, it's not that it's not detailed in the drawing, but it's not over the top where I don't understand what I'm looking at. It's not visual vomit. That's what a lot of modern American books are for me. It's just visual vomit. It's like, ugh, wow, you drew 5,000 lines to render his fucking, Cupid's bow on his lip. Great. What happens in the next panel? I don't know. He dies. Well, I would like a little more detail. I think comics are awesome and have a bright future. You just need to reassess what people actually want to read and not necessarily what happened in the 1990s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I was of the age where the 90s books were hot, and those books suck looking back on them. Come on now.
Yep.
I've been watching a shitload of cartoonist kayfabe, and I've been because I've been working on stuff, and those guys are R.I.P. Ed. Those are the dudes that really get what's going on with this stuff, and I wish more people had higher expectations for the medium. Well, no, I don't actually, because people don't have high expectations, and then they're just not buying the books because they suck. But if people could hold these creatives' feet to the fire and make them make good stuff, I'm ready to buy a character like Black Panther if the stories are well written, not some allegory for Ta-Nehisi Coates' racist bullshit or whatever he's spelling. I would love to meet every writer and grab them by the shoulders and shake them because they're all smaller than me and say, nobody fucking cares about your plight or your story. Nobody cares about your bullshit. We care about the characters. Write a story that's resonant with everybody here and stop telling me your life. I don't give a shit about your life. I give a shit about Wolverine. I want to hear about his story. I want to see the X-Men fight Magneto or this or that. I don't want to hear about, well, one time a man touched my knee and it was inappropriate. Call the police and leave it alone, all right? Leave that shit out of a fucking Marvel book. I don't need to hear your issues. Because that's what all these books are, is it's like a psycho session for a lot of these idiot writers. Oh, I am offended. I'm this, I'm that. I don't care about your political views. Keep that shit out of the book. Write something that actually is interesting. Put your politics in that and then make us think. Don't go, this person bad, that's the story. Like, that's why the books, and that's why this industry is the way it is, because it's nobody had the nerve to tell these people, no, you're not, we don't care about what you're saying. They built the name and now they're just cashing on it and it's garbage.
Yeah. And don't, and even beyond the political, the socio-political stuff, like just write a good story in general, like whether it's, influenced by one thing or another, write a good story. And if you want to have like some superstar artist on it, awesome, but do that because you have a story worthy of it, not because you went on, I don't know, a month-long bender and you need really good art to cover up how dog water your story is, and people need to feel less bad about owning a copy of your book because at least it's drawn by Jim Lee. Frank Miller.
Jim Lee's the man. Hey, did you see Frank Miller donated a piece to the LA wildfire relief?
I did not, but that's really awesome.
Was it something he recently drew or like something good?
Well, here's the thing. That's why I brought it up to you. It's a new piece, but it's really well done. Really? It doesn't look like his, those covers he's been doing for Marvel lately that are just terrible?
Yeah, like you can tell he's
I've never been a fan of his art style, personally.
He has two different art styles, so I like him. I like Frank Miller.
No, that's fair. That's fine.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, he's got two different styles. He's got his classic style where he's inked by guys like Joseph Rubinstein, and then he's got his, like, second wave. He's like John Romita Jr. He starts one way, then he evolves into a second way, and he doesn't get out of that second way. And I'm with you. That second way is less palatable than the original way, but the firefighter piece he drew is pretty awesome. It's like a firefighter running in profile, and it looks like it's out of Sin City. And I think he knew that this was going to sell for something important or a good cause. I thought the piece looked pretty cool. Like, check it out.
That's awesome.
We'll get off the air.
That's his negative space style, right? Where he's just using the blacks. Yeah, he's getting better at that. A lot better.
I love him. It's interesting. I pay attention to the artists, but then I also pay attention to their influence. And if you're like my age and you grew up reading Rob Liefeld or Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane, they all talk about Frank Miller and John Byrne and those guys. And I think those guys are far more interesting than the people they inspired. So if you're a reader, folks, and you've never heard the names John Byrne or Frank Miller or even David Mazzucchelli, go back and look them up. Their work is awesome, and you'll realize why people like me are very dedicated to telling these stories. One, because it's fun, and two, because, there was a window of time where this was like a very cool thing. It's not even, let me put this. It's a very prestigious thing, and to be a part of it is very, satisfying. It's very fun. It's very, Andrew, you know what's up. You're a part of this stuff. Script, you know what's up. You've written stuff that's even bigger than the comic book, so you know what's up too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's rewarding. I mean, that's the other part too. Like there's a sense of accomplishment. It's hard enough just to finish a story, on its own merit. So when you get to that point, and then you're able to actually get to publication or production, that's just cloud nine from there. And the thing is that when you take a look at the artists that you mentioned, I mean, I even throw Neil Adams in there because he's one of the guys that probably that inspired John Byrne, because their styles are actually quite similar. That's just where it's all at, like right now. Like, one of the things I kind of find that was both a bonus and a negative from the 90s is the fact that it really did elevate the bar of quality of artwork that you'd have to put on your images, but it also extended the turnaround time for that, because now it's all about the exaggerations and the hyper detail. And then when they changed the inking process and the coloring process, So now you have a wider spectrum of colors that you can play around with, different hues, different tones, and you're not just relying on the inking to do like cross-hatching shadows or any sort of singular points. Yeah, you're making the comics look less comic booky, look more photorealistic with that comic book um, aspect to it. I don't know, je ne sais quoi, so to speak. Yeah, you kind of realize like, well, where's all the effort going into to this, and also is this effort done by the artist to get them on the radar of the publication also being a negative, because now the publication is realizing, oh, and we love this artwork and we like how well these artists are, but normally it would only take 22 days to do a turnaround for a 22 issue comic with an artist, but now it's a 40-day thing because they're a better artist, they have more detail that they want to do, and this is a new standard that we're setting up for ourselves. So now you realize, oh, now the page rate has gone up, and now the expense and turnaround has gone up, and now we're no longer planning out just 12 months in advance. We have to accommodate for the time it takes to render all these images. So now we're looking at 16 months, planning it out, and then we have to stagger it that way. And then if you do have an artist that can't meet the deadline and they're really, really good, you're in that hard position where it's like, well, do you fire them and wish them going to the competition where now people are going to be following that artist, or do you try and find another way to incentivize them so that they can actually hit the deadlines that you're doing? Or are you too impatient to realize that maybe your deadlines are not in sync with the writer and artist team that you've hired? So many more variables have come in through the whole aspect of just elevating the art style from generation to generation.
I don't know how you elevate it next here in America. I think the Eastern influence, and honestly, just the takeover of manga and anime and everything Japanese, and basically my generation on, Dion on the show, he's got kids. They don't give a shit about American comics, but they love the manga characters. They love their anime characters. They love their Japanese stuff. I think the art form belongs to another country now, sadly, in terms of like mind space for the next generation. And it's guys that are slightly younger than me and guys that are older than me that are still on the American side of it. And it's nothing to do with politics or any of that dumb shit. It's just literally like, a guy my age will pick up a Spider-Man, but a guy, kid 15 years younger is going to pick up One Piece or, stuff like that.
A lot of that has to do also with appeal. So, you'll have people in the mainstream media, and you'll have people at, Marvel and DC claiming that, well, this is for younger generations. Kids want this. Talking about whatever, diversity quota nonsense they're pushing into their books this week. And clearly that's not the case, because I can tell you, as somebody who goes into their local comic book shop every single Wednesday, the kids aren't in there. People that are buying the books are my age, or just as you said, Jeff, like a little bit younger or older, right? So there's been a massive drop off in younger audience appeal when it comes to Western entertainment in a lot of respects, and especially in American comic books. You don't see it enough. And a lot of that honestly just has to do with the fact they're not producing things that the kids actually want. Like, it's not like we don't have the model. Like, what are kids actually watching right now? What are kids actually reading right now? Look at manga. Okay, so they want something, maybe it's a little more upbeat, maybe it's a little more flashy. Doesn't mean you can't still tell a good story, but look at the model, look at what's working. But then you look at that and you contrast it against everything that's coming out of Marvel and DC for the most part. It's all dour and depressing, and somebody died this time, but they're back next week. And it's all just stupidity that kids aren't interested in. It's not appealing to them.
And I'd argue that not enough stuff happens in a modern comic book because, and I know folks are going like, what does this mean? What I mean, folks, is about 25 years ago, a guy named Brian Michael Bendis introduced the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Your groans mean a lot to me, but in terms of furthering my point. In the way that folks used to pick up an old book, and it's like watching a movie. You love when you watch a contained story. don't you hate when you watch a movie and it feels like a commercial for the sequels? Well, that's what a lot of these books are. It's not even that it's a commercial for the sequels. It's nothing happens in a single issue. You have to buy a trade paperback that's $24 to get a story. And even then, it's just a chapter. You would get, these decompressed stories of, well, let's watch Peter Parker talk about his angst in his hallway. I like stories where shit happens fast. That doesn't mean you sacrifice a story, but like I read Batman Demon Quest, or when I work on my own books, like I have a limit. Like we have to get to the meat of the story in a couple of pages. Like with Wokebusters, the splash page is literally breaking glass and all this crap, and then I think by page 4 the first monster appears, and then we build our story.
Keep talking about Wokebusters, man. I'm gonna have to get in my car and drive and grab it from you.
It'll be here soon. Oh, did you see the hold on. Did you see
I saw your email this morning.
I saw the Kickstarter update where you showed the print proof
the
file.
Physical proofs.
Ah!
Yeah. No, that wasn't a proof file. That was literal paper.
Oh, that was the physical one. Nice.
That was the physical proof. The book is been in production. It'll be here very soon. And folks, I have a team. We're gonna turn around that shit real quick. So thank you to everybody who made that happen. And just to give you a heads up, then Stealing Solo 2 is going to happen, and then my books will come out regularly. I want to shoot for 1 to 2 a year, and then we're going to see where that goes from there. But I've had a lot of great opportunities. I told the guys off air, a major corporation hired me for something, so that was pretty cool. And so be on the lookout for that in a couple of months. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to get at, though, is I like stories, and I most people I feel like this way is where stuff happens. You are only on this planet for a short period of time. Why waste your time with garbage, with bullshit that's not world class? You may like Captain Marvel. That's awesome. But do you really want to watch Captain Marvel bitch about pedantic stuff like, oh, my shoes are dirty, or they're out of my favorite brand of crackers at the grocery store. My dad, it's like, who gives a crap, lady? Like, we want to watch you fight the Skrulls and cosmic battles. And if you're going to have an allegory for social issues, make it good, make it deep. Hell, if you're going to tell a morality tale, make it a universal morality tale. Like, I don't know, murder is wrong, or X, Y, and Z is wrong. Today, you got people that are just so... I'm done.
Well, everything should be done at the service to forwarding the story. If you have, obviously, there are books that are basically breakneck pace from start to finish. I think doing too much of that can be a detriment. But you can still have those slower moments. However, don't just have slower moments that are dialogue for the sake of dialogue that aren't forwarding the story and forwarding like what your reader understands about your character as a person, as a human being, or whatever the hell your character might be. Make it important, make it make sense, and have it drive the story forward. You want, your pace doesn't always have to be the same, right? You don't have to always be going at 80 miles an hour. Slow down a little bit on some of those turns and those spots where it's like, all right, here's a little more character development going on right here. But then you turn that corner, boom. Now we're into a nice action piece, right? But in the same vein, in those action pieces, you can still have character development in action. You could do that. A lot of writers don't know how to do that, and I think it's an important thing to do, because then otherwise you just end up with big, typical CGI set piece type movie, right? Where, okay, like that looks cool, but what's actually servicing the story here? How much of this is actually important? Or are we just looking at a bunch of cool crap happening for the sake of a bunch of cool crap happening? Right? There should be something that is... No, and that's fun. Absolutely. I'm not knocking that necessarily, but I'm saying that you can still tell a story through an action sequence. And I'm always impressed and pleased when I see writers and artists do that.
I'm going to stop ranting about comics because, I spent all day...
We could rant about comics all day.
Yeah, we should do our own podcast about that.
We should.
But
Cape shit.
Yeah. Let's see where we are at next. Let me look at the script. Okay, so we talked about the entertainment shift. We talked about the Flash. Okay, folks, so as of now, the Skeleton Crew is over. Now, you'll notice here on the channel, I have made videos about other things, and people are asking, where's the Ollie's videos? Guess what? I went to make one for this past weekend. It would have only been 6 minutes long. I have great footage of some stuff that you want to see, but you want more than 6 minutes. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to go get some more footage. I'm going to drop that hopefully this weekend. I've just run into a bunch of weather issues here in Cincinnati. We've had snow. We've had like 6 inches of snow. It's currently 9 degrees outside, and it's going to get -1 by Monday. So it's going to be cold, and that's not an issue. It's not like Ollie's isn't going to be open if it's cold. But where I live, they haven't had the best snow removal, and I figure, well, I work from home, so why even deal with it? But that being said, you'll get your Ollie's video. But folks, we've been talking about Star Wars on and off for like a decade. I can't believe it's still a thing at this point. But the Skeleton Crew is over tonight, and you'll notice that we haven't talked about it at all. We haven't made videos reviewing it outside of the first episode. We haven't made videos talking about how poorly it's doing. And the main reason is I gave up on it. I didn't want to punch down on a show that was already failing. But this show, I always say, oh, it's fine, it's fine. It kind of sucks. I tried to go back and rewatch it today to get caught up for the finale. I do not like this show. Not only does it suffer because the Acolyte was bad, I think it's boring. The stakes aren't really there. The kids are okay actors. Jude Law does a good job. But overall, I just am not connecting with any of it. And I don't care to watch it. Like I said, I literally tried to sit down and watch it after Squid Game, and I went, I'd rather do literally anything else. So there's the reason why we haven't reviewed it, folks, and why I'll have a video about it tomorrow. But that's about it. Have you guys heard any of the bullshit around that show? Because like literally nobody cares. No one's
talking about it, so I haven't heard anything. And I guess to be fair, I don't really watch YouTubers outside of this channel and Eric's, obviously, because I work for him. And every now and then on a Sunday, I'll catch Script's show, or no, Saturdays,
Saturdays. Yep.
You
might watch the replay on Sunday.
Okay, my weekends bleed together because I'm usually like in a daze through the entire 48 hours. Like, okay, I'm not working, but I'm also kind of working. So yeah, I don't watch much YouTube until I'm like laying down, and then I'll throw on like the River Monsters YouTube channel and fall asleep to that. And that's all the YouTube I watch these days. But I do know that basically nobody was talking about Skeleton Crew because nobody was watching it. And unlike with Acolyte, where nobody was watching it other than YouTubers, it's just nobody watched it because nobody, like, that was the point. Like, people finally reached that level of not caring. Like, it's not even worth watching to review to my audience. I got better things to do. Just as you said, Jeff, like, I could go walk my hamster that died when I was 11. That'd be a better use of my time. Like, seriously, that's basically how this show came across to people. Whether or not it's any good, that's neither here nor there. It could be great. Apparently, first season of Andor was great, but basically nobody watched that. Right, the level of interest in watching these things has just dropped so drastically.
I think we've lowered the bar on what is considered great. Like, Andor was enjoyable, but it's not like The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, like, nothing is The Empire Strikes Back.
I think they made a big. I think even George Lucas made the big mistake of recasting Mon Mothma with the actors that they had, because she's a good actress, but she just doesn't capture that first, impact that Mon Mothma had when she showed up in Return of the Jedi. Doesn't physically look like her, doesn't have the elocution of the way she speaks.
Right.
She's a very different character, and I'm just not convinced with her. Now with the Skeleton Crew, I've caught a few episodes. I hate the little kid, the little human kid. I don't like him. He's a solid actor, but he's just not a kid that I can see other kids really attaching themselves to. The two girl actresses are good, and their relationship has definitely got something more authentic going on with them. Jude Law is not phoning it in at all. He's nailing it, and he's also
I would hope not, because Jude Law is a great actor, actually.
Yeah, he's also wearing Lando Calrissian's blue shirt, which is funny.
Oh, shit, he is.
And he's got some depth to him that he's playing around with. But this is a pirate story that's got too many human pirate-like things being adopted into a Star Wars guise. It doesn't feel like like George Lucas would come up with a different interpretation of pirates for his universe that is familiar enough to recognize as pirates, but not so dependent on human pirates to the point where they have human pirate shanties and songs. That
Right.
feel like
Do they actually have that in the?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And they even like the inspiration is worn on the sleeve of this show. Like clearly, 1980 Spielberg, The Goonies, certain things like that. It's a love letter to those shows.
and the
But
1950s Disney pirate films.
Yeah, and tonally it doesn't not fit Star Wars at times. I just don't find myself caring enough. Like the parents that are trying to find their kids and the whole Abaddon or whatever the planet's called, Addis.
Ad-Atten, which is
Ad-Atten. Sorry, I'm thinking of Superman. What is it?
Ad-Atten. Are you
Yeah.
serious with me right now?
Yeah,
Ad-Atten.
Ad-Atten. Yeah. It's a hidden planet because it's an old imperial.
it's one of 6 hidden planets, and it's the only one that's still hidden.
Because that's where they made all the gold for the Republic credits.
They actually called it AT-AT. Is it actually AT-AT?
ATATIN, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like at Saturn, like there's other variations of it as well. One's a pleasure planet. But
Slightly inappropriate to have in a show
they
based
also
on
have this
kids.
weirdly weird thing where like there's a barrier around the shield, and what's funny is that the way they describe the barrier is near identical to a buddy of mine's pitch on how to do the Kessel Run. So, and I know that the people at Disney saw that. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, you have this giant kind of cloud field around a planet, and then if you pass through it, there's the planet, and also the field, I guess, is so big that it's got the sun. The star for the planet is in it as well, which is not. It's just very strange. Everything about it just kind of feels off, and yeah, I mean, its production value is actually really good. Doesn't have any of the mistakes that you got to see in The Mandalorian, which had a few. They even had they showed crash mats in The Mandalorian, and even with Book of Boba Fett, where they showed part of the facade. Behind the facade was caught on screen.
Any Starbucks cups on set?
No.
Anybody remember that fiasco from Game of Thrones? Was it one of the seasons?
Yeah, they apparently they recolor corrected that whole fight that was so dark nobody could see it on their TVs. So there's that at least. But yeah, Skeleton Crew is just I think it's going to get a second season just because the people that have seen it and have commented on how it is has been favorable. So it's actually pleased Disney to the point where they'll follow through with it. But outside of that, it's just the apathy of the franchise itself is doing more damage than even the risks that they're taking. And what's odd is that if Skeleton Crew is getting positive reviews from the small audience that it's that's appealing to, it's going to take a very long time for that audience to be able to earn the recommendation for that show as time goes by, because that audience is still going to be too small to have that impact. Right. So every subsequent show is probably going to do worse, most likely, than the previous one that launched, with possibly the exception of a Mandalorian or a derivative thereof from that particular part, because I think Mandalorian Grogu is the film, that's the last part, but they do have like Katie Sackhoff's character is probably going to get a show.
Bo-Katan, yeah.
So there might be a Bo-Katan thing coming.
She was a good Bo-Katan. It's just that season sucked.
Yep.
I actually like Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan Kryze, but that season was just like, wow. There's a huge shift in tone and quality from the first 2 seasons to this. Like, what happened? And I think what happened, and I think we've talked about this before on the show, is that there was a threshold where suddenly Filoni's hands were far heavier on basically everything within the Disney Plus Star Wars content, including Mandalorian, as opposed to the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, which were primarily Favreau.
The Mandalorian has come and gone. I know
Yeah.
the movie's coming out, and I know people think like, "Oh, you
It's
guys
too
are
late."
just haters." It's not even that it's just too late. Beyond that, I agree. It's also it fell apart. Like there hasn't been any of these shows, or there have not been any shows that have been impervious to a dip in quality. Like I honestly cannot name one that goes, "Oh, it's bereft of these criticisms." Like even Andor, I think Andor is overrated personally.
It is.
Yeah, like I don't. It's almost like every time I see one of these writers out here talk about it and praise it, it almost feels just like it's like a talking point that's given to them. Oh well, we gotta say that Star Wars is bad and this and that, but we can all agree that Andor is great. And no, we can't all agree that Andor is great. None of this shit's great. And it's nothing to do with being angry over Kathleen Kennedy or all that other shit. It's legitimately just I wasn't entertained. And I'm not gonna all of a sudden throw money at it just because you tell me to. Like that's kind of it for me in terms of these streaming shows. They'll have to put out something incredible to get me to want to watch it enough to review it for the channel. Until then, it's just all forgettable. So I guess it's gonna live and die, pretty much. I don't think that. I mean, Script, you're guessing that the small amount of positive hype will get it another season. I'm guessing that this show is done.
It could be done, but the scuttlebutt is that Disney is very happy with the Skeleton Crew, and it doesn't even matter if they have the ratings or not. If they're very happy with it, they'll push it for another season.
Even nobody watched it.
Yep,
Seems silly,
because it's
but
because it doesn't matter that nobody watched it. It's the fact that the people that do watch it liked it, and it's also pleasing to the studio. So there's a synchronicity there.
What
It's
was
not
the
like
show's budget?
Do
you know? Do we know?
Pretty reasonable compared to The Acolyte.
Okay, well I would hope so, because The Acolyte was what, 200 million?
288 for the 6 episodes, something like that.
God, almost 300
my
million
arm
just flushed down the drain.
Well, the part with The Acolyte is that even though it did better on the ratings wise things, it was critically panned. And Disney, at the end of the day, when they looked at it for themselves, they were not satisfied with it, so they tanked it. Andor, they are mixed on, but they signed a contract, so
it gets at least the second season.
It gets that
right?
second season, and that's all it's going to get. Nothing. Book of Boba Fett was considered a one-off. They're not going to follow that up because that was really just kind of it was a teaser at the end of season 2, and then ended up becoming the replacement for Rangers of the New Republic, which was also going to be the setup for the Marshall Dune show. And also for
something I was actually interested in seeing. Not that Gina Carano's the most amazing actress on the planet, but she's very likable. She's fun to watch. I liked the character of Cara Dune. I wanted to see more of her, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll actually watch that. I'll take an hour out of my evening each week."
Was supposed to be the two-hander with her and Carl Weathers, but with Carl Weathers passing away, they're never gonna come back to that. And then the Rangers of the New Republic was going to have like the Bill Burr character and Ming-Na Wen and all those other ones kind of bouncing around with, I think, Paul Young Sung Lee, the Asian X-Wing fighter, being like the kind of like mission, chief of operations, handing out the missions to this team. But all those things kind of went up in smoke because there's other internal Disney politics and all of that stuff, so they lost that momentum. It's up to Disney now to rebuild it back up. They are still many years behind the audience at this point because, again, the stuff that you're seeing, like with all things at Disney, was put into action 3, 4, 5 years ago. So
it's sad. Like the three things that I was probably most looking forward to, which is actually a shocker for me because usually, and I've said this on the show before, when it comes to Star Wars, I mostly care about like the Jedi and Sith stuff. Like I mostly care about the Force and lightsaber stuff. But the shows that I was looking forward to most when it comes to Disney was the Rogue Squadron thing, Rangers of the New Republic, and the Marshall Dune, none of which are ever happening.
Yeah.
which is probably for the best.
It's because you're a bad person, Andrew.
Yeah, and that has to be it. I was not looking. You know what? I just don't support enough female characters. I was just only looking forward to a show being headlined by one. That's all.
I don't even care. Like, if somebody was like, you don't like shows led by female characters, I'm like, maybe. You can't even guilt me into that stuff anymore. We're in the new age. You can't guilt me into watching a show. Oh, I'm afraid of being offended or offending somebody. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna go watch reruns of MXC. Listen to them make poop jokes for 2 hours, or something else. I don't know. Probably watch more cartoonist kayfabe. But yeah, that was the Skeleton Crew. It's over. It's done with, and let's check in with the audience. So let's see what has popped up since the last time we checked in. So, our friend John Thomas, thank you very much for your very generous super chat. John says, Elizabeth Shue, Adventures in Babysitting. Jeff, beware of sparkly people if you go to Dayton. Tagged you with an article. Oh, I saw that. So by the way, folks, what John is talking about is apparently Dayton, Ohio is the second largest conglomeration of vampires in America. And I'm only an hour away from Dayton. So now I keep a bulb of garlic in my pocket at all times, just to be safe. So thank you, John. Not only am I safe from vampires, but I smell like a delicious Italian dinner. So that gets me a whole nother
there you go.
Audience, fans. But beyond that, that's my comment earlier referred to. Motorcycle button, please. Yes, John, I do read. Folks, if you message us on Twitter, if you message us on emails, I do read that stuff. Now, I'm busy. Sometimes I don't respond to everything, but I do read your stuff. So thank you for taking the time to always message us. And here's your motorcycle button right here.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
And now he's dead.
I don't know how many times he's crashed, but folks, if you want to commemorate that crash, go to shopwcbs.com right now. We have that t-shirt over there. It's a warning motorcycle crossing sign shirt, so check that out. And folks, also too, we had mentioned how we're going to be doing quarterly shirts now, and I think I have this quarter shirt lined up. So always keep shopwcbs.com as a favorite. We know you're watching on the internet. Hit that little star on your browser when you go to shopwcbs.com and get that website bookmarked so you never forget a t-shirt, because a lot of you liked our Halloween shirt. A lot of you got it, and then other people have messaged me, Jeff, can I get a copy of that? It's gone. That was limited. So our quarterly shirts are going to be available for that quarter, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Collector's items.
Yes, I like collecting stuff. That's why with the books, I know the amount of books we have, everything. I keep that little index. So down the road, you can know, like, oh, the action figure cover of Wokebusters only has 25 left in existence type of thing. So that's how limited some of these things are. It's usually on demand, though. It's never like, oh, let me jack up the scarcity or create a market of bullshit. No, it's just, hey, this many people want this book. Realistically, projections determine that, hey, whatever. But that means they're limited, and those books do sell. So always be on the lookout for the stuff we do, because I'm a collector. I like collectibles, and you do too. Swift -1, member for 10 months. Says it's great that Will Smith will be the lead in the new Matrix reboot. New and upcoming actor. He's dozens of months younger than Reeves. Is this actually happening? Is there a Matrix reboot with Will Smith happening?
There's no way that's actually
I've read
happening.
something, but I don't know if it was legit or just a gag.
I can't believe that's actually happening. That can't actually be a thing.
I'm going to punch somebody if that's the case. Like, not anybody in this chat, but like, that is the dumbest idea. He turned it down 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago at this point. He turned it down. Let's just not go back to Will Smith in the Matrix. That's not a good idea.
Well, Warner Brothers has the IP. They need to make money off of it, and there's no easier way to do that than another feature film. However, television, like a streaming series, might probably be better for it. They want to really extend it long term, which appears to be the case.
I am a firm believer that the time has come and gone for the Matrix. That
I agree.
Matrix Revelations was the last one. That was a difficult watch.
I skipped it. I was like, no, I'm good.
You are good.
I
Don't
don't
watch
need to watch that. I heard the premise from people. People gave me a couple of spoilers, and I was like, I'm good.
Also,
No,
to
thank
script,
you.
what more can you add to The Matrix? The first movie had everything you needed to talk about what is reality, this and that. And then you get to the second and third one, and they just feel like an exercise in how to extend a good idea. So a fifth one is just bad for me, like real bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, where else can you go here? You do a harmony between the machines and humanity, and they try to unscorch the sky of the earth? Like, no, you either need to incorporate a third-party antagonist, or you're just going to be repeating the same story beats you've done, which is what they did in Resurrection or
Wasn't
Revelation.
Resurrection basically just the first movie again?
Kind of. Yeah.
From what people described to me as the plot, I was like, so it's The Matrix, but older and
It's
not
the
as
Matrix,
good.
but two of them find out that they're in the Matrix instead of
Right.
one.
Ooh, wow, that's groundbreaking. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
glad I didn't waste whatever 2.5 hours of my life on that.
But come on now, man. You can... Nah, I can't even make a joke about it. Screw it.
I was gonna say you're welcome to try.
I wish I could get that 2.5 hours back. But I can't. You know what I won't have to worry about wasting 2.5 hours doing is watching the new Captain America movie because it's only an hour and 58 minutes. So thankfully that piece of crap is going to be at least shorter than your other pieces of crap by today's standards.
So that's counting credits, I'm sure, right?
Typically.
So that means it's probably about an hour and 40.
Which is actually your sweet spot for an action film in runtime. So, yeah,
Wouldn't
that's
you-
good.
Wouldn't you die laughing if it was actually a good movie and we were all wrong this whole time?
It'd be
I would
fantastic.
I would eat my own shoe. I would be like, hey, you know what? All right, it was actually good. I don't expect that will be the case. I have zero reason to believe that it will be. However, I consider myself an intellectually honest person. If something surprises me and it ends up actually being good, I will say so. That being said, I'm paying to go see this movie in theaters. You kidding me? No, I got better stuff to do.
Folks, as you know here on the channel, I'm always honest with the reviews. If I like it, I'll like it. If it's crap, it's crap. Even stuff that some people might love, like Deadpool and Wolverine, it's a fine movie, but I really don't ever intend to watch it again. So I'm always honest with you guys. If Captain America 4 is garbage, you know you're going to hear that. If it's awesome, I will jump out that window over there. Luckily, I'm not high off the ground, so I won't even hurt myself.
Here's the first story. All right, so you're gonna drop 3.5 feet. You'll be okay.
Shit, I'm gonna climb out.
You can step over the windowsill and hit ground just fine.
Oh no! No self-harm here on this channel. I love what I do. John Thomas, thank you very much for your super chat. Is Marvel really gonna have Captain Hydra America after Captain Falcon America? That doesn't sound like Kevin trying to turn the ship around. Sorry, Kevin. The Kevin. That's not him.
I have not heard that.
Well,
Nor
that's
have I.
again, this Brave New World has been in development and production for 6 years. So the first
84 years.
well, they announced it 6 years ago. They put it into actual development 4 years ago, and they've remade the movie like 6 times. So yeah,
It sounds so pathetic when you say it out loud.
it really is. Now the other part too is like the first sense of seeing a different direction for Marvel is going to come with the Russo brothers and McFeely and McPherson returning as writers for the Avengers films, and then possibly with Fantastic Four. However, I suspect Fantastic Four might get knocked back a couple weeks because they are going to learn pretty quick after Brave New World, if that movie is going to perform as we expect, that they will not be able to actually compete with Superman being so close. I think they're going to probably go to July, August, or at the very least Labor Day weekend, so that they can, because there's no way they're getting, like, July 4th is reserved for Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is so big that, yeah, Warner Brothers is smart not trying to compete for that same weekend. That's why they're doing it the weekend after. And yeah, Fantastic Four I don't think is going to survive the weekend after that either. I think if Superman does well as what is currently being rumored as doing, don't listen to what Jeff Snyder said. He got beat up by Uwe Boll.
That's about the most pathetic thing I can imagine.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, he's connected, but he's also got a heavy bias, and he also likes to mess around with what he's hearing to fit his own narrative. I have only heard very positive things on Superman right now, and the fact that it's not gone back for reshoots, but it actually went up for B-roll pickup is a pretty good sign that everybody at the studio is liking where this is going.
Well, you
Now,
mentioned
whether-
before that Gunn is usually pretty strict about how he handles
He's
stuff.
meticulous of it. He's classic in that regard. He knows every shot that he wants to do and wants to get, and he pre-visits everything, so he knows what type of movie is going to look like before he shoots it.
At the very least, that's efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, it saves a ton of time on production. Like
And
Supergirl,
therefore
Woman
money.
of Toronto. Sorry, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, not Woman of Toronto. Woman of Tomorrow.
No, it's being adapted off of a Tom King book, which was Dogwater. Y'all can have her up there.
But it's been it's been rewritten by someone else, and James Gunn supervising it. So Tom King doesn't actually have a proper screenwriting credit on it, which is good.
Well,
But
okay, we'll see.
that started production this week, and I think they're only going for 6.5 weeks of filming because that's how tight it is. And the director who they got is actually not too bad. I've seen his other work; he's pretty solid. So if the other part too is that it's got to meet the quality standards that James Gunn has. And since he has kind of put a pin in a whole bunch of other projects that were announced when he was talking about what the new DCU was going to be, it seems to me that whatever they managed to do with Women of Tomorrow, they nailed it to what made James Gunn confident enough to start it off with this being like one of the quickest follow-ups to Superman expected. So yeah, and then on top of that, you have Matt Reeves' Batman being delayed yet again. And there's still no script finish. And even though he says he's going to film this year, don't hold your breath, man. I mean, I just don't buy it.
What if it never comes out?
Might not.
Would you be upset? I wouldn't.
No, I think Warner
The Batman was a mid-film.
Yeah, I think Warner Brothers would be smart to save their money on that part and invest it in a proper DCU Batman film with whoever they decide to cast in the role.
Yeah, don't confuse audiences further
It'll
by
be a
having
nice
two
one-off
different
with the
Batman
TV show.
at the same time. Just move on.
Yeah. I'm okay without Batman for a minute, though. For as much as I love the character, I don't really miss him right now. Xavier to God sends in an anime recommendation. Street Fighter 2 V is his recommendation. Now, if that's the movie, I've seen Street Fighter 2, the movie.
Me
like
too.
The anime movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's badass. It's got
Chun
some
Li
great
kicks the
scenes.
crap out of Blanca.
Oh, dude. No, out of Vega. Yeah. Oh man, that's such a cleanly animated fight too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Wasn't Akira made anime a thing in the Western world? Akira came out, or Akira came out the year I was born, so I don't really remember.
No,
that.
So anime kind of broke out in the Western world, oddly enough, in the late 70s because anime changed from being something that was inherently Japanese to their interpretation of Western animation, Western storytelling, and Western visuals. Because when you take a look at some of the bigger animes, aside from like the Howl's Moving Castle and Studio Ghibli stuff,
Yeah, your Miyazaki.
they're really like it's very much like Blade Runner inspired type stuff, and that is not Japanese in culture. That's Western American initially, but Japanese has kind of like repurposed it for themselves, has co-opted it and made it its their own thing. So, and I think that's pretty fascinating with obviously the exceptions of like a One Piece or a Dragon Ball or My Hero Academia or so, and there's a baseball one too. So
That's the anime I like the best, though. The stuff that's like pseudo Blade Runner, was it Angel Cop and all that?
Angel
kind
Cop,
of stuff.
Ghost in the Shell,
Angel
Robotech,
Cop, yeah.
even Gundam
Ghost-
to a degree, yeah.
Yeah, depending on which series, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can get behind
Appleseed.
anime all day, every day. It just I can't do the cutesy aha with the crying and the giant tear and the weird the
Oh yeah,
trope.
like that was Ed from Cowboy Bebop, like the most annoying character in the show, but still beloved by diehard fans of it. So
And I love Cowboy
I'm
Bebop.
one
I
of
got the box set.
I love
got
Ed.
the action figure, like the
Mhm.
high end one. Spike's cool. Xavier to God, thank you for that. So you're talking about Street Fighter from no, not the 2 movies. Street Fighter 2 V came out in 95 or 96. Oh, I haven't seen that then, guys. I just know the movie and then the video games. So
Let's take a look here at my list.
because you're well versed in anime compared to me. I get into my weird Italian and French comic books.
So
Or
is Street Fighter
but-
2 V, like the V is Roman numeral for the 5th
For-
Street Fighter movie? Or Street Fighter 2 movie?
It's for Vega. I honestly do not know. But I'm always willing to give it a watch, Xavier to God. It just has to be on Crunchyroll, and I don't know if it is. Well, anime. There we go. Street Fighter 2 anime. I don't see anything. There's the animated movie. There's Alpha. There's Street Fighter Round 1. There's Alpha Generations. Oh, good. The Van Damme movie's available to buy. Oh, you mean the
Excellent.
TV? You mean the TV show? Street Fighter 2V. Here we go. It's a 1995 action show produced by the TAC group. It's based on Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Okay. And it's available on Tubi, I believe.
Oh.
Available on Tubi. How about that?
Oh yeah, they got 29 episodes, it looks like.
Yeah, it's on Pluto, excuse me.
Pluto of all things.
Yeah. Dude, Pluto TV's got good free anime.
Oh yeah. Pluto's
Are-
great. Pluto and Tubi are awesome.
Dude, the best streaming are the ones that you watch the ads and then get better movies. Like, I get it. Nobody wants commercials, but when I go onto your platform and you have 100 things I want to watch, not 5, I would rather sit through any commercial to watch, I don't know, Point Break instead of, My Mother the Car or some dumb shit like that.
Or Cocaine Werewolf,
Right.
which is a real movie.
Apparently, he says no, not the animated series. Well, that's all I'm seeing for Street Fighter 2V. Like I said, I'm new to that, so I've never heard of it. But as long as you're not recommending that I watch the Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia, then I think we're gonna be okay.
I mean, that's worth watching for Raul Julia's infamous line
Yeah.
alone.
True, but we can all agree that Mortal Kombat is the better video game.
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Yes, it is.
I mean, the only
No
thing that's
pushback.
eerie about Street Fighter 2 is that Ming-Na Wen hasn't aged in the 30 years since she played Chun-Li.
Film. No, she still, dude. She looks as good in the Book of Boba Fett as she does in that movie.
Yeah, and then her daughter, who's now the same age as she was, and then is a clone, essentially.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Good genetics.
Ming-Na Wen's fantastic.
I'm getting some pushback that the Street Fighter live action is a classic.
Well, it's better
Ooh.
than the Legend of Chun-Li that came out in like the early aughts.
Okay, so yeah, bar subterranean.
Don't trip over that bar.
You
It's in
can't.
Earth's
It's too
crust.
far underground.
It's in the Earth's crust near the planet core. I can't believe I just quoted episode 1. Fucking fire me. right
Wow.
now. I'm sorry. Oof.
Wow. Look at you.
I know. I'm reading the chat though. They're saying that Mortal Kombat's the best game adaptation. I'm in that category. I prefer Mortal Kombat. That is my favorite video game movie. Then Mario, not Sonic the Hedgehog. Sorry, folks. I haven't watched that.
That's okay. It's not my favorite by any stretch, but that original movie's a ton of fun. It's certainly the best out of any live action fighting game adaptation. I'll give it that. So you put it up against Street Fighter, you put it up against Dead or Alive. It's definitely the reigning champion there.
Oh yeah. Now I kind of want to watch it. I maybe do a 30-year anniversary retrospective for the channel. That could be fun. So, folks, It has been almost a 2.5-hour show. Andrew, Script, is there anything we should cover before we go? Anything we missed?
I think we hit everything.
No, I think we got it all.
Yes, we did. Now, folks, thank you for joining us. I will have a video tomorrow. Make sure you guys check that out. I see that you guys have been watching our videos, so we're going to keep making them because I love doing this and you love watching them. So I want to thank you guys for giving me that opportunity. I'm going to go probably not watch the last episode of Skeleton Crew. I might continue reading... what am I reading right now? I don't know. I'm going to read something. Or maybe I'll draw. Who knows? I'm a very happy man these days. Script, where can we find you on the internet, sir?
You can find me on the Twitter X's there at Script Doctor PhD. You can also find me at youtube.com/ScriptDoctor, where I do my weekly Scripts on Saturdays show. And if you join the Patreon, you get to find out what script I'll be doing in that following week, as well as every once in a while see my musings and tips and tricks on screenwriting and story collaboration. I might even start doing an interesting article on this generation's version of how film finance works out, because it might shed some light into some certain failures that are not as big of failures as we expect, but also how the metric and advertisement with regards to those goals is pretty much bang on with what speculators are discussing.
Folks, you should check out Script. He and I had a fun episode on his Patreon about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With Steve Ditko, which was great. Andrew, where can we find you on the internet, sir?
You can find me in all the Rippaverse circles because I'm the creative manager and lead editor over there. We have a number of active collections going on right now. Blood Ruth #1 has, well, in a couple hours, it'll be 6 days left in that pre-order window. Yaira 2 is off to a great start, so thank you to everybody that's supported all of our currently running collections that we've got going on for our books over there. Find me here every Tuesday night at 8. Best show on a Tuesday night. Thursday nights or evenings, really, at 6 p.m. Central. You can find me over in Foil Variant, where me and my buddy Spencer go through some of the books that came out this week or each week, whether we liked them, whether we hated them, whether they were just kind of meh. We be honest with you when we talk about them. And then Saturdays and Sundays are when I do my gaming streams, solo gaming streams on Saturday afternoons, and community night multiplayer games on Sunday. And also Sunday evenings, you can catch me pretty frequently over on Mary's channel, where we do Hypothetically Speaking, which we end up doing a lot of like different fandom sortings into their Hogwarts houses and just having a good time. It's really just a hangout stream. So definitely check that out as well.
If Turbo Man from Jingle All the Way was real, what Hogwarts house would he be a part of?
Gryffindor.
Okay,
Easy.
That was a quick answer. Xavier to God. Jeff, if you YouTube Street Fighter 2V, there's a few episodes on YouTube, but I found the whole show on a link on Reddit. I will look that up because I Googled it, and there's a Reddit post, where can I find this show? And it's just Street Fighter 2. And it's on the archives. Oh, it's on Internet Archive. Well, that's where Fantastic Four is. That's where I've been watching that show. So I'll check it out one of these days. I love, my favorite Street Fighter player is Ken. Or character is Ken. I'm always Ken in the red gi. That's my go-to every time. Never switch it up. Adama says, who agrees that we need a Soul Calibur movie?
Nah. Most fighting game movies suck. I don't trust them to handle Soul Calibur. I love Soul Calibur too much as a franchise.
If you know
It'll be
what
dog
I
water.
want, you know what I want Soul Calibur to be? I want a Soul Calibur movie to be kind of like Iron Chef, the Japanese version, because you know how the narrator of Iron Chef in Japan is like so over the top. I want that narrator, because that's the narrator in the Soul Calibur games.
Yeah.
You know, like before you fight Keelik or Yoon Sung, it's like the soul of passion burns for eternity, and you're just like, what? And then you know all these like it's like so dramatic and over the top. If you go that route, then maybe, but. The only way I'd watch a Soul Calibur movie is if it ends with a wormhole and Link from The Legend of Zelda appears and then he just kills everybody.
No, he doesn't kill everybody. He freaking knocks them off of the stage with his ring out throw. That's what he does.
Oh, that one where he grabs your arm and spins you and throws you out?
And then he smacks you on the freaking ass with his sword and you fly off. Yeah, that one.
Dude, Link in Soul Calibur 2 is the best character.
He was broken.
Yeah, because he's the only one with projectiles. Everybody else has like sticks or swords. Link has a bow and arrow. He has bombs. He has the sword and the shield that he can just smack.
There's the boomerang too.
Yeah, Boomerang was always the lamest weapon. Plus, Adult Link shouldn't have a boomerang, but that's me being a Zelda fan, and I'll leave that alone. Do you think the new Nintendo will be announced by the next time we stream together?
That's only a week. No, I don't
Yeah.
think so yet.
I've been seeing all the hype surrounding the Switch 2 and all of that stuff, so
I'm looking forward to it.
I want to get excited for it. I got to see some games, but I bought the Switch on day one, and I didn't regret it. I played the shit out of that Nintendo, so yeah, I'm all about that life. Come on, Switch 2, be worthwhile. And yes, I have seen I'm aware that the Fantastic Four had a radio drama where Bill Murray was the voice of the Human Torch. Have I listened to it? Not yet. Will I? Maybe one day if I can find it. But I'm sure when I meet Bill Murray, that's the first question I'm going to ask him. So, Bill, what was it like voicing a Fantastic Four's Human Torch? I'm sure that's what he'll care about. But, folks, thank you for watching. You can find me here on this channel, this 200,000 plus strong channel, each and every, almost every day. I have some new shorts coming for you guys, as well as many new things in the hopper. But I've been working on Stealing Solo 2. I'm 10% done. And I don't mean I've written 10%. It means, like, I've done 10% of the final pages. So I have been knocking these pages out left and right. I email them to myself. I'm getting ready to send the first batch to the colorist. And, my goal is to get half of the book done relatively soon by, like, the end of this month. So I'm really working hard to make that happen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's coming together great. I'm feeling it. I don't know. Like, you guys are creatives. You know what it's like when you're just firing on all cylinders. And this thing, every time I get back to it, I'm so excited. So tomorrow, I'm going to get up at the crack of dawn, finish the video, and I'm going to get right back to this book because I cannot wait to bring it to you folks. If you like the first book, and a lot of you do, because I'm literally the only person that fulfills the book. I know how many of these things go out. Thank you. But no, I know you're going to love this next one. I have had so much fun writing it. Roughing it out was fun. Drawing it's even more fun. And I have upped my game in every level, or on every level. The writing, the art, everything. And I think you're going to get a lot of laughs out of this. And I'm going to make this campaign big. We're shooting for the moon here. So help us make our $45 trillion goal. No, all joking aside though, folks, we are going for big. We want to top, I personally want to top the first two Stealing Solo campaigns. Remember, it went 50, 72,000. I want to make this thing a big hit. It's a great book. It's something you're all going to love, and we're adding all kinds of fun perks and tiers to make this thing a big winner. So join me in a couple of weeks during tax season, and we're going to make that book the hit that it deserves to be. John Thomas, thank you very much for your generous super chat. John says, ooh, I saw a video the other day. Some martial arts masters was showing people take out people using energy and sound, a combination wording and a Hadouken.
Oh yeah, combination of the weirding way from Dune and Hadouken.
Weirding way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I have to check that out. I'm interested. So you've seen that script?
No, I haven't seen any martial arts videos on YouTube recently, so that'd be some cool thing to check out.
I need to stop going down my rabbit holes of like it's the end of the world and technology is going to take us over and conspiracy theories about JFK. Like my YouTube algorithm is all jacked up right now, so I gotta fix that. But folks, I'm gonna get out of here. We'll be back next time with more. Thank you for watching. Until then, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
Imagine if you gave a white supremacist 5-MeO DMT, and then as the first one, as they're exhaling,
Yeah.